Okay, welcome everybody to the December 5th, 2023 Angels Camp City Council meeting. Rose, roll call please.
Mayor Herndon,
Present.
Vice Mayor Moncada,
Present.
Councilmember Brolio,
Present.
Councilmember Shemente,
Present.
Councilmember Sharada,
Present.
staff is present.
Thank you. Pledge of allegiance, please.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3 is approval of the agenda as posted or amended.
I'm going to make an amendment.
Okay.
Caroline Sharada is present. She's not in San Antonio, Texas. And then I typoed on item 6D. It should say Utica Park, not part. Mhm.
Okay. With those 2 corrections, any other corrections or amendments? Any members of the public? Okay, looking for a motion to approve with the corrections, please.
So moved.
Alvin?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Shemente,
Okay, go ahead and.
Brolio,
Aye.
Sharada, Herndon,
Aye.
Moncada.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4 is public comment. The public may address the council on any item of public interest not otherwise on the agenda that is within the jurisdiction of the city. No action may be taken. Matters to be addressed may be referred to city staff or placed on a subsequent meeting agenda. Speakers will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Do we have any public comment here tonight? Okay, and how about any online with us tonight, Rose? Any members online? Just raise your hand or take yourself off of mute if you have public comment. Okay, seeing none. Close public comment. Move on to item 5, which is our consent agenda. We have 3 items on consent tonight. Does anybody have any reason to pull or request any of these items to be pulled?
I'd like to pull B and C, please.
B and C.
Oh, proceed. Good.
Okay. Any member of the public have any reason to pull item A? Okay, seeing none. Looking for a motion to approve item A on consent.
So moved.
Alvin? Second. Caroline. All in favor, roll.
Shemente,
Aye.
Brolio,
Aye.
Sharada, Herndon,
Aye.
Moncada.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so item B on consent. This is for you, Mike. This is to approve resolution number 2384, a resolution of the City of Angels City Council to approve banners and decorations over State Route 49 in the City of Angels Historic District. And this was brought to us by Caitlin, so
And it's not.
we'll have Amy speak to this. Mike, your reason for pulling?
I have some questions. One of them deals with, and I was trying to find time to come talk with Jesse and APCA. I think a lot of these activities generate a lot of dollars for the city. I understand the need to not absorb all of the cost. And I understand that we probably are talking about next year and not this year. I wasn't quite sure, I didn't understand the fee waiver, but, I know, for example, the Bret Harte High School, even though it's their homecoming, Bret Harte holds 2 cross-country meets at Frogtown that bring in, I want to say 1,000, but I mean, everybody benefits when something is done in a city. So I'm just curious about, can we work out some kind of compromise maybe with the business association if we had our own truck? And the other thing is, are we providing traffic control? So we're already invested in there. So, and my next question is, this shouldn't fall under prevailing wage, yet the price fluctuates according to the California Construction Code Index. I'm not sure why that's in there. You know, why are we using an inflation factor, as opposed to having the contractor just say, this is a flat amount to rent the moving truck? So, this discussion, I understand that we need to have a plan for Caltrans, et cetera, but I would like us to be more proactive, because the amount of people that come to town based on the event that they may be attending, there's a filter for everything else that happens. So it's a trickle down for our other businesses.
I'll defer to Rebecca to go into the way we have to help fund people who want to put up banners so that they do not have to pay the fee. As far as the California Construction Cost Index, that is what is applied to all of our building and planning fees. And this just happens to fall under those. And
Okay,
that's why we
Okay.
use that particular thing.
And the lion's share of the cost is, we basically contract with, Gold Electric. And they come out with their boom truck. We do the traffic control. And while many of the banners are requested for not-for-profits, there are ones that are not for-profits, right? So we adopted a grant program this year where we will basically approve fee waivers based on need. And so thus far, we've approved every single fee waiver that's
Okay.
come across using that grant funding. We incorporated, I think, $25,000 for the what year? 22, 24, 24, whatever year. And so that goes
Okay,
to cover
good.
that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
Are you satisfied with
I am.
everything got addressed?
I am.
Any members of the public have any questions or comments on item B? And anybody online? Seeing none, coming back looking for a motion for approval of resolution 2384.
I'll make the motion.
The motion,
One second.
Rose?
Shemente,
Aye.
Ferolio.
Aye.
Sharado,
Aye.
Herndon,
Aye.
Moncada.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Item C is Utica Water and Power Authority letter of support for the brick project submission. Mike, you pulled this, and if you want to go
I
and
did,
speak to
I think in order to be transparent, we need to have a conversation in public about this. I did read the background information, and it sounds like a worthwhile project, but again, you know, what kind of fiscal impact is it gonna have on our citizens, both short-term and long-term? There were other agencies named. Are we the first agency to kind of jump on board on this project? And I just think it's one of those conversations that has to happen, and I don't see this as a routine item, so.
Okay, so let me jump in then.
Yeah.
Well, actually, real quick, I'll let you do just a moment. So we have this as Rose as the clerk, having brought this forward.
And I'm gonna defer to Rebecca because it's not my item.
Not your item, however, if it's okay, we'll defer to Alvin. Okay, perfect, sorry.
Okay.
Housekeeping, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so this is for the lower tunnel path. That the Utica board has started to pursue and look at, and the board has voted to look at it and pursue some grant funding. What we were after was a $10 million brick grant. What it does is it bypasses some of our most, I guess, vulnerable assets of the flume on 3/4 mile where there's a lot of fire damage and different things that can happen. And there are multiple agencies in it, CCWD, us, Murphy's. We actually met today. The three agencies did. And there's a lot of questions that have come up, from water rights to infrastructure to all sorts of questions that have come up. So what we did today was we talked about doing more of a planning grant than a construction grant. So we kind of gave Joel direction this morning to get a hold of the brick grant people, and I have an email from him
That says, I spoke with FEMA consultants about whether we can amend the brick grant application to remove the construction component and focus on additional alternative analysis, planning, and design, which is what you were kind of after. They said there should be a pathway for us to make those changes. However, without construction being included, we would only have access to a small pool of funds through the brick program. They're going to discuss this internally today, and we'll have a call scheduled for tomorrow. Okay, and then it says additionally, they let me know there are rounds of HNGP funding, which I'm not sure what that's.
Hazard mitigation grant.
Thank you. So many of them. To be announced January 2024, that could be a good fit. So for me and we were with CCWD and everybody, this was kind of the direction we went this morning, and it looks like we may be able to do that with the call tomorrow. So what I would like to propose is we scratch this one here. Joel has now sent out a new one that is going to be for just the planning aspect of it. And I would like to authorize, which is more information amongst everybody, environmental planning, looking and see if this is the best avenue or not the best avenue. That I would like to give Jen and Rebecca the authority to sign if things pan out tomorrow with FEMA.
So are we then gonna be the first, or where does UPUD say?
Right, that's my question.
They're not gonna meet until January.
They're not gonna meet until.
So the thing is basically typically, we have the authority, we usually just would regularly give Rebecca or UPUD gives their administrator the authority to pursue support letters to kick the tires on these types of grants. And then when there's something that sticks, then you come back to your board. We decided to bring this to our council this time because the letter's not due till Friday and we were meeting today. So we thought we would bring it to us to let you all know what was going on. Alvin and I have been included in this. Rebecca, of course, has been included in this from all of our UWPA meetings and all of our conversations.
Right, so this,
But it's kind of a moving target right now until we throw that dart and see what sticks with the grant. It's just a letter of support. We don't have to accept the grant. We don't have to move forward with the grant, but it's just wondering if we have a thick enough packet to apply for the grant. You know that.
it's just, yeah, so, like I'm saying, Jessica
It
was
is
there,
just
Rebecca
changed.
was there, Minkler was there today.
And CCWD is mentioned in the letter. Is CCWD gonna be on board with this project now as it's being proposed, or
They wanted more planning,
they want to see planning and then they'll come on?
They wanna see
planning alternatives.
planning alternatives. They wanna see more than the tunnel tap. They wanna see, us look at other potential options besides this one. So the idea is to look at a planning grant that would look at different feasibilities that impact the three or four agencies as a coordinated effort. And not necessarily, it could be the tunnel tap, but it might not be the tunnel tap.
And the goal of everybody there today was to better our water infrastructure and to, if that were to burn tomorrow, then what is our next option?
Right.
And
We've never had a plan B before. And we got caught, as we all know, without a plan B during Darby Fire.
Well, I appreciate the efforts that's being put into this endeavor, and I still believe that even if it's a support letter, that support letter should be discussed and not be put on the consent agenda, so we all have a better idea of what's going on. I appreciated the time that you and Jill spent with me yesterday.
Mhm.
I have a better understanding of, the workings of the JPA, et cetera, but we gotta make sure folks out here understand that too. We all know that.
So the reason that I chose, and I'll take this one, the reason that I chose to put it on consent is because it's not even a project yet. It's not, it's hard to speak to yet until you know that you kicked that tire and it's a contender. So it was very premature.
Right.
It was a letter of support for them to explore.
Right.
And, so we don't bring all those to council every time. We don't bring them to the public every time. We do letters of support amongst different agencies quite often and like I said, UPD and CCWD are doing their letters of support without going to their council. So,
Okay,
So-
I get it, but I think too this.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, okay.
Right,
yeah, so I mean.
on
clearly
the
we try to
act
put
of
it-
kindness thing, you know what I mean? But
Well,
on,
yeah.
On a consent agenda item,
Yeah.
no, I see what you're saying. So-
Yeah,
So if I might offer, based on the conversations this morning, I think what we all agreed to is we all are committed to pursuing planning options in order to mitigate risk.
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like. Nobody has really developed what that looks like, and it may be this or it may not be that.
Right.
So maybe the solution is a more general support letter, just in that, you know, the city supports Utica's, I guess, and it's not necessarily just Utica's, the city supports efforts related to mitigation, you know, mitigating risk associated with our water supply and water infrastructure. Because then it's not really specific to the tunnel tap, it's not specific to anything, but it is to deal with the risk is that upper canal.
Right.
So specifying that that is the risk, that we've all evaluated that that's a risk, period. And then we're supporting, looking at, you know, opportunities to mitigate that risk.
and for me, that's exactly what this letter said. No more, no less.
It specifies the tunnel tap. So I think that's where CCWD was not fully on board with that. They want it more general in terms of discussion.
Okay, well, I don't know where the heck it's at.
I
but-
don't, I'm looking
You
right
don't
at
see
it. Talks about the Darby fire and the effects of the Darby fire with it being a wooden plume. And City of Angels supports taking proactive action to prevent another disaster before it occurs. And we strongly support this concept and Utica's effort to explore grant funding for protection of our conveyance system.
Okay.
So that's a
So I
high
think
level.
we removed, that's because we removed the.
You and I did.
We did.
You and I did. And then, yeah, theirs is like 3 drafts in, and then there's another draft that then does add language about planning and design is where we're at now, rather than the construction of or the grant funding. So it is a very
It's pretty,
broad casted letter of support, and I'm in favor of this.
yeah, so, and that's, I would be in favor of it too.
But you're right, it did take a turn for just planning for right now, because that's where we need to be concentrating
Right.
after today's meeting.
That's
With
where
all agencies.
all the agency stuff, there need to be more planning, more talk, more discussion before we move forward with the construction type thing.
So do we need
And
to
this
have?
opens that door
Right.
to having, if we get this grant, we may never even get it, or, you know, this opens that door to looking at more options out there for us.
So should we revise the letter and say that we support the planning phase of this? I mean, I'd be okay with that.
So there was a draft, after today, there was another draft letter that came out. It's the exact letter that is part of the packet today with a change in the final paragraph that says, City of Angels supports taking proactive action to prevent another disaster before it occurs. And we strongly support Utica's effort to secure grant funding to conduct a collaborative alternatives analysis, planning, and design.
I have it right here.
So I think what we'd be looking for after we open this up to public comments tonight would be direction to,
The very
Right.
bottom right there says
Yeah, the very last.
collaborative alternatives analysis
There,
planning
yeah, report.
and design.
So it doesn't stay a specific project
Right.
of any sort. So, okay.
Thank you.
So there's a little background, and if you want, I can call Joel, he had a prior obligation tonight. He said I could call him, put him on speakerphone, and he could talk more to anybody.
I just,
Okay.
again, you know, I appreciate the council's ability to understand that, you know, from my perspective, we need to conduct, I think this conversation was important to have in front of people. And I think we all understand that. This is not, you know, kindness week resolution or letter of support. I mean, the way I looked at it and the cost of the project, I worried about, you know, short-term and long-term commitments, overrides, was that gonna fall on our ratepayers? I didn't have enough information, just to leave it on consent.
No, that's
That was my
consent.
rationale.
Yeah, it's a consent we all had this afternoon.
Yeah.
First one.
And I will say, historically, the support letters have no financial tie to them. It's
Right.
normally a, like a kindness deed, or it's a, they're like, you know, there's no but even potential for a financial liability to the city, where this one potentially did.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna see a public comment. Does anybody in the public have any comment on this item? And anybody online, Rose?
No.
Okay, so seeing none, I'm looking for a motion on this item. This would be, a letter of support
On this new letter.
on the new letter that nobody's seen yet, but with the modification for it to be alternative analysis, planning and design.
We'll make a motion for what's on the screen.
Okay, Alvin?
Second.
Mr. Schmidt? Okay, Rose?
Shemente,
Aye.
Ferolio,
Aye.
Toronto,
Aye.
Herndon,
Aye.
Moncada.
Aye.
Thank you.
Moving on, item 6A. This is a presentation from the Calaveras Visitors Bureau, Mr. Martin Tuffy.
Good evening, Mayor Herndon, honorable council members. I'm Martin Hubbard and administration. Martin Hubbard, your executive director of the Calaveras Visitors Bureau, as well as the Angels Camp Museum. I would like to update you since our last presentation in May. In that presentation, we gave you the visitor figure for 2021 that comes from the Visit California authorities, as well as the accountancy firm of Dean Runyon and Associates. Visitors brought in $216 million to Calaveras County in 2021. $25 million we were behind Tuolumne. I don't normally judge us against Tuolumne, but I do feel because they actually have many more hotel rooms as well as being on the doorstep of Yosemite. But I do think for this purpose, it's a good indicator. Just after the last time I was here to present to you, the 2022 numbers came in and visitors brought in 246 million. And we were just 5 million behind Tuolumne, which was something that KCRA picked up on, and they came out and interviewed us, which was brilliant. Tourism is our largest industry in the county, and we take our jobs very seriously. We are the sole entity that markets our county and City of Angels locally, nationally, and internationally. We enjoy the foothold that we have at the Angels Camp Museum and see our partnership grow from strength to strength, year to year. We're currently working on 3 new grants. We actually got 3 grants. So we got one for the Angels Camp Museum Foundation for the Foundry exhibit from the CCF. We've got one from the Old Timers Museum from the CCF for the Albert Michelson. And yesterday we just got the Cal Humanities grant for $25,000 for that exhibit as well. So it's huge. Wow. This past summer's farmers market were incredibly successful at the museum, and there are ideas circulating to make next year's even better if ACPA decides to do it at the museum. I'd love to see a local antique sort of flea market type thing too as well, so that we can bring in hopefully some items for our museum. We're super excited about the new Max Museum. It will be a real boon to the city, and to have 2 museums as attractions to market is going to be phenomenal. I've asked Christopher Mandel, who's dealing with MACT, to deal with city administration to see whether you'd be interested in donating the city's baskets and mortar and pestles to the new museum. The Old Timers Museum is going to donate them, their collection, which we currently are holding. And what I did want to say is at the end of this month, the Old Timers Museum is going to be signing over all their artifacts to our museum. So that draft letter I'll work with Rebecca on just to make sure that we're all happy with it. As a reminder, CVB employees take on their work at the museum as volunteers. All admission membership dollars we receive go back to the museum in either upkeep, new exhibits, but mostly for additional museum employees. The $50,000 that we get mainly goes to utilities and 1 part-time employee. I also wanted to thank, it didn't include in the letter, for the city to say thank you for helping with getting the lighting in the buildings. We have brand new lighting, LED lights in both of the big buildings. We're seeing things we never even knew we had. We spend 63% of our allotted TOT budget on direct marketing, 25% on payroll, and 2% in overhead. And I just want to mention that 2% is mainly Murphy's, our Visitors Bureau Murphy's. We thank you very much for the agreement that we have to be here in Angels Camp. The main CVB Welcome Center, as you know, is located in Angels Camp, and we're open 7 days a week from 9:30 to 4:30. There are just over 300 hotel rooms in the entire county, and 200 of those are right down the street. So our visitors from Worldmark usually make the CVB their first point of call. The Murphy's Center is open 5 days a week from 10 to 4. We have currently 6 part-time employees and 2 full-time employees at both locations. This year, so far, we've greeted 12,624. That was at the time that I wrote this letter, which is a couple weeks ago, which is just about 2,000 more than we saw last year. On the Highway 4 corridor, I'm seeing 24% more traffic than we saw last year. They're not spending as much, but we're getting traffic. We neglected to include our blogs in our last presentation. Blogs go out on our website multiple times a month. We push them out via social media, and they sometimes get reworked into press releases. They're very popular and a great marketing tool. In 2022, District 1 was included in 14 blogs. District 2 was included in 15. District 3 had 20 mentions, and District 4 had 16, which mainly focused on Angels Camp, shopping, and the museum. Sorry, Ben, District 5 doesn't get very much. For us to market. Since our last presentation, we've also ordered 10,000 more copies of the Visitor's Guide. So we've handed out personally 60,000 copies via Visitor Center, local hotels, international airports, and other key areas in Northern California. On average, 80,000 copies are downloaded from the website annually. The cost of the Visitor's Guide is paid solely by the participants. So when you look at our balance sheet, it looks like we have a lot of money in the bank, but the majority of that is what we've raised to create the 2024 guide. One thing I really want to mention, which I think is absolutely genius, and we're first doing it, is to put a QR code on the cover. So the woman that does our marketing in San Francisco she was flying out of Oakland, she saw our guide, and she thought, oh, I'll just take all the guides. And she's thinking, I don't want to take all that paper with me. So having the QR code where people can just access it, so even if it's in a hotel room in WorldMark, instead of actually flipping the guide, they can click on the QR code, have the guide on their phone, and I'm actually going to order 50,000 next year because I was going to order 60,000, but I'm going to reduce it and see how we do. And if I need to have more, but I just think no other travel, I've never seen it done before, and it just makes so much sense. So we'll
So
let you
you're
know how
saying
that goes.
you print 50 and then 80,000 more are just downloaded?
Yes, correct.
So together, that's your distribution?
Yeah,
Or you-
yeah. Well, this last year was 60, so
Okay.
I actually ordered another 10,000 because we ran out, and right now I'm down to the wire, and hopefully the new ones will be here the first or second week of January.
Okay.
We contracted with Placer AI this year to collect data on how many people come into the county, where they visit, how long they stay, and where they come from. This tool allows the CVB to spend marketing dollars efficiently by targeting individual markets and zip codes. The CVB has also provided the city with a login to use this tool, which has already proven to be extremely beneficial for ideas and economic development. It's a genius tool. Essentially what they're doing is they're collecting the data from cell phones. There's a 3 to 5% margin of error, but for the most part, we tick every person that walks in that building. And if I go digitally and I look at how many people walk in the building, we're pretty spot on. Obviously, children don't have, most children don't have, the little ones have cell phones, and there's some older folk that don't. But it's pretty accurate. And for example, I looked at the numbers for the fair. And I talked to somebody that came from Montana, and I talked to somebody that came from Arizona, and I looked, and I could tell, they don't tell you the exact address, but I could tell exactly where they came from in Montana and in Arizona, how long they stayed in here, where they went to before they went to the fair, and where they went to after. So Big Brother's watching. But this is incredibly, I'm trying to get the county to start using it more. Rebecca jumped on it first. It's really helpful for businesses and knowing what type of businesses you should really be going after, what people are looking for, where they're going, who's leaving our county and where they're going to shop and what are they shopping for. So hopefully this next year we'll really use it far more. The CDD works with Hook, Line, and Thinker, which is a digital marketing group. To date, Hook, Line, and Thinker has delivered 32 stories in various high-level publications nationwide. Most recently, Calaveras County was featured in Google News with Randy Yagi's trending travel article. Google News reaches 280 million readers worldwide. The CDB followed up our ad in the United Kingdom's National Geographic Traveler with an ad in the London Evening Standard. According to Visit California's rep in England, 200,000 airline seats were added this year from Heathrow to San Francisco. And I know that personally from friends who didn't know that I even exist in this part of the world. And you look on Facebook and they're here in California. So I think that's the first time that we've ever done any international marketing. And I took that money from what we used to spend going to Los Angeles to do a trade show. And trade shows can cost $3,500, $4,000 by the time you're done with it. And the last two that we went to, I'd be surprised if we got anybody to come to Calaveras County. They've sort of, it's, that whole dynamic has changed. And I think a lot of the people that go just kill a weekend afternoon by going to see all the wonderful places they could go, but ultimately, I don't see the ROI in it. The CDB partnership with Hook, Line, and Thinker, we've done different campaigns and contests and garnered a large amount of usable content, visitor interaction, and a popular calendar. We'll be doing the calendar again this year. It was fun last year. This year it was called Back to Nature. We have some wonderful, wonderful shots of what we're putting into a calendar. And I was selling them, but I think actually it means more to just get them out there. Part of this, in my thinking, was to get people to commit to events, because post-COVID, it was so easy to say, yeah, this is an annual event. Oh, no, we're not going to do it. But if we can get them to commit to put it in the calendar, then hopefully we'll get back on the road with.
How many are you gonna print?
So the difference between 200 and 500 is $300.
Yeah. I didn't get one last year because.
I
we
think
ran
people
out.
want them now, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for the 500, and I'm just gonna take that as a knock for marketing, and we're just gonna hand them out. Over the course of the last several years, the CVB has developed relationships with travel writers and influencers. These writers come vetted through both Visit California and Public Relations and the Gold Country Visitors Association. Through 4 travel writers and influencers, we were able to reach over 600,000 Instagram users alone. Preeti, who came almost 4 years ago, she really reaches more of an East Indian crowd, but we are still seeing people that are coming on the back, and she continues to put the information that she got here on her social media, which is brilliant. The CDB sponsors and participates in county events and city events, obviously. Since our last presentation, we financially sponsored and manned a booth at the Raging Cajun Festival, Lumberjack Days, Grave Stomp, Irish Days, Hermit Fest, Dia de los Muertos, Lumberjack Jamboree, Dogwood Festival, all the July 4th festivals and parades. We did the VOW Bridal Fair. I think that's very important. They work very hard. They do a great job. Weddings are a huge sore subject. We were the dancing polar bears in the Angels and Murphy's Parade. We were signed up to do the Valley Springs, but for some reason they didn't have us, so we didn't march last weekend. We were there in the booth. Love the idea of the dancing polar bears. Is, you know, the Visitors Bureau brought them from the North Pole, so hopefully next year we'll have some elves and other things following us along. I told you about the calendar and the visitor's guide. We just had our planning session, our strategic planning session, and we'll complete the 2024 goals at our next board meeting. We endeavor to align our goals with the county and city strategic plans. I mean, it says it right up there, dedicated to preserving our rich history. So I feel the Visitors Bureau work and the museum work, obviously, we're doing it. The chamber leadership team chose to work with the CVB, and we're in the midst of creating an outstanding online scavenger hunt. This game will include all the museums in the county, of which we count 7. So it's an idea, again, going to a meeting at Yosemite, the Yosemite Gateway Partners. Yosemite was talking about their scavenger hunt and how it goes around the world and how children love to do it. And then they want to go see the real thing. So it's like, well, why aren't we doing this? So I pitched it to the Calaveras leadership group when they came to do the museum, and they thought it was a great idea. So we'll see how it can grow from here. But ultimately, the goal is to put it online, to get people to come, to actually go to see, to actually find the object that we put online, and then take their picture with it. And we'll come up with some sort of award once they've done well. Since January 2023, through this past summer season, we've seen an average of 24% increase on last year's visitation numbers along the Highway 4 corridor. Our largest market is San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley, followed by Sacramento, Roseville, and Folsom, and then San Jose, Sunnyvale, and Santa Clara. And again, that all comes from Placer AI. We'll see how this trends in 2024. We see the CVB going from strength to strength, and thank you for your time and support. As a reminder, the CVB looks to support local events both financially as well as help strategic marketing and support. Our unique events are what continue to bring our visitors to our area. Please contact us with any ideas or help needed. Lastly, I just wanted to personally thank Rebecca. Rebecca attends all of our board meetings and is a real, how do I want to put it without getting emotional? You're just the best, so thank you.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you and your time. And also to say that Caroline listens to me moan more than anybody. So thank you both. I just wanted to let you know that in January, our policy and procedures are grossly out of date. They need to be updated. The reason why we haven't is that it was post-COVID, and then we're coming in and out of different partnerships and how it's all working. But we need to do it so that we have all of our, we have all the job descriptions, but we need to make sure that the policy and procedures for the museum, for Murphy's, and ultimately, we might be partnering with the chamber depending on that contract that they have with the county, but we'll make sure that that's in there as well. And lastly, I really want to make a pitch for our archives. I've been trying to figure out a way that we can afford to get the archives done properly. The foundation was trying to do them, and it just is, it started and stopped 3 times. There is no inventory that I can just hit a button and get off the computer of all the items in the museum. And I think it's extremely important that we have that. I mean, just for insurance purposes alone, to know the value of what that collection consists of, especially now, assuming all of the artifacts from the Old Timers Museum, I do have a complete inventory and valuation for those items. So I'd like to get the same for the city and for the museum. And I might come back to the city if I can't figure out a way of affording that. I'm talking to Noah Berner right now, who has done it down with the county and catalog it. And that's it. So any questions?
So I only have one question. You talked about blogs.
Yes.
That is, I guess I'm a little unfamiliar with what a blog is. You mentioned is your on your website, or is that on your
It's
your
content.
Instagram?
It's content that we put out usually twice a month,
Okay.
and it's recurring. When I first came into the position, we did an audit of everything, and the people that do destination marketing say don't reinvent the wheel every year. Keep to your 52 or 50 stories, and just keep updating them. So ultimately, we are taking stories and updating them and changing them, and sometimes we add new ones, but they go out on our website, and people read them there, but then also we push them out on social media, and then we also sometimes put them into press releases and get journalists to come up because of them.
Okay.
Martin, is there any way to track repeat visitors?
Yes. So again, with Placer AI, there are unique visitations and then there are visits. So you can tell the difference between how many people came back versus how many just came once and then never didn't come back. It also will track local traffic as well. And it's all dependent on how long your cell phone stays in a particular area. So if I think Rebecca will remember, if it's over 6 hours, it's, in any case, it's how long they can tell who's a local and who's a visitor by virtue of how long your cell phone sits in a certain place too.
Yeah.
So do you review that like at the end of every workday? Just are you?
It takes a couple of days after. I would start to look at it as far as marketing, but it's one of those things that's like.
Go down a rabbit hole.
Well, yeah. All of a sudden, it's 3 hours later, and you've been playing with it and trying to figure out. It's great information, and again, you want to make sure you're reading the information correctly, and so that's the hard part too, because sometimes you think, oh wow, look, and then you're like, no, you have to make sure that you're doing it correctly. What I like about Placer AI and in talking to, we're members of the Gold Country Visitors Association, so all the counties along the Highway 49 corridor, we get together every month, every other month sometimes. There are only 2 others that use Placer, but we swear by their customer service because they will, at any point, you can get somebody on the line and you can sit with them and they'll help you figure it out. So, and that's all part and parcel of the price.
So, I mean, and what they'll do is, I mean, they've got several reports and several different, ways to look at the data, but in addition, there's extra reports, and so we get so many credits, and so like I asked for a leakage report. So leakage, so retail leakage. So if they look at, our area, this city of Angels, what's the biggest driver that people are leaving the city of Angels
Chinese
to go?
food? Is it?
And so it tells me, but I had to order it. So it takes, and it took, 4 days to get back. But they're going through all that data and then they're giving me the business sector that's leaking out. And then they're giving me examples of the top places where people are going.
Yeah.
And so that then tells us, well, based on our circulation and traffic and things that are coming, that we have here, could we support that type of business, that type of business sector? And do we have somewhere for them to go? So some of this information are things that I will coordinate with Amy on. Some of the information is what we just issued our first kind of like city market view newsletter, which I thought was interesting because you talk about unique visitors versus recurring visitors. So like Frog Jump Plaza over the last 12 months, and I looked at this a few months ago, it was 750,000.
Yeah.
Now unique visitors is about 110,000. Compare that to Murphy's only 50,000 unique visitors. So our issue will not necessarily be that we don't have enough visitors and traffic coming. It's that we just don't have the businesses here, that to keep them, to capture them, to force them to stay here.
Right.
And so that's where, I'm reaching out to the business sector that we have to say, here's the demographics that are coming, because I know the ages, I know their household income, I know the value of
From
the
their
home
cell
that they're
phone.
coming
From our
from.
cell phones?
I know, you're gonna be putting that thing on everybody. I know based on,
Exactly, yeah.
I know based on that information, their discretionary income, what their spending capacity is on a daily basis. I know how many days they're staying here.
Wow.
So it's way big brother, and it's a little scary, but it's super helpful to us
Yeah.
in terms of economic development.
Wow.
So I'm sharing that information with the business community to say, keep this in mind if you're looking at starting a business, or if you're looking at expanding your business, or if you're struggling, here's who you have to cater to. Or if you're going to cater to, just the locals, we have a different demographic than the demographic that's visiting us. So either you need to straddle both, or you need to pick one, or the other. But here are the demographics for both. Here's how you can be successful. Here's what you need to think about, because this is who they are.
That's just statistic.
It's just what they are.
That's just
And do you get these numbers for the whole county? The
You can get it, yeah.
Because it's just super interesting, like all the way up to Bear Valley. Does it capture?
So
Bear
what happens
Valley?
is I start to lose people
Yeah.
because of the cellular connection.
Yeah.
But I can tell you how many people are heading up that direction. And sometimes I can get Bear Valley. So I know how many people have gone as far as Bear
Made it
Valley.
there.
Yeah. And, but for Arnold, it gets a little sketchy in Arnold. And sometimes I don't know, if I'm getting as much information as I should be. Well, what's really interesting is when you look at it too, I can tell you that, for example, the fair, most people come from the Central Valley in Sacramento.
Yeah.
The Irish Days, it's San Jose. I mean, that type of information is
It's
so.
huge.
It's-
We would love to know that for the music festival too, like,
Yeah.
we kind of capture it through ticket sales, but
Yeah.
I'd love also to know like Maloney's, like who's going and wrecking, who's doing recreation
So
there.
it breaks it down and you can do it by like the top 50 zip codes where people are coming from. And so what's interesting too is that, certain parts of certain counties, will rank like third, and then you go down and then there's another district in their county that comes in like 12th. But it's very interesting to see how it all breaks
I would
down.
think like the golf, I mean, like everybody would want
Yeah,
to know,
great
want to
group.
know their data. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Searching.
I've
out
always
for-
wondered, Greenhorn Creek is, the World Mark is filled. In
It's
fact, they're
huge.
vacant, they have no
huge.
vacancies all the
Yeah,
time, and I
it's
just
huge.
always wonder, where do all these people come from? So that's,
And the other part is, where are they going? So I mean,
Yeah.
the interesting
How do they
part
behave
with, how do they
while
behave in here?
Yeah.
So I, as another report, I asked for the routes, traffic routes. And so what I wanted to pinpoint is if we looked at kind of Frog Jump Plaza, which is really where that 449, intersection is, and that's where the bulk of our traffic goes. Are they going right? Are they going up 4? Are they going down 4? Are they going to downtown? Are they not going to downtown? And so what that tells me, because I got that one back, is only 32% head towards the downtown area from that intersection area. So that's why the wayfinding signs is going to be really, really important, because that's going to direct more traffic through town where all of the businesses, you know, are looking for additional feet on the street. That's where they're gonna get it from.
So, pie in the sky, like what do we need here in Angels Camp? What do you think our number one thing for tourism?
For tourism, people to say, stay open when they say they're open.
Yeah, stay open be open with the hours in the day.
I mean, again, I would love to, I mean, if I had a magic wand, the hotel would be open downtown. I mean, I think.
I mean, more beds, I think, is what we're.
Oh,
in
attack the
desperate
bar.
need.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think if we could get a boutique type hotel too, with a spa, it would be hugely popular in this area. I know people are looking, there's a group that's looking at Forest Meadows right now, and one that was looking up the hill, but not anymore. So.
But I mean, just kind of like our leakage analysis report tells us that the number one place where people are leaving us is restaurants, so it's dining, followed by clothing, followed by beauty and spa, just in terms of services and or whatever you're gonna buy.
Right.
So in that order, that's where we're seeing a leak there. And then groceries, and it really comes down to like a lot of people are going to the grocery outlet over in Sonora. Yeah, people are going to hotels and casinos. So they're coming here, staying here, going to casinos.
Sure.
And doctor's offices, if they can't get it here, they're going. And then shopping centers. So any of the shopping centers where they've got, you know, additional clothing, apparel, clothes, shoes, TJ Maxx, you know, whatever, sporting goods, whatever it is, they're going there because they can't find it here.
I always yell, Big Five, because I've had to, you know, run over
Make a
there
mad dash.
for shin guards or something. It loses them. We only have one. Or mount, yeah.
So before Martin leaves, I'll step back in time, but like pre-COVID,
Yeah.
Visitors Bureau, you got the whole reference. You've done an amazing job.
Oh,
So
thank
you and your team, I mean,
It's about the team.
yeah, so,
It's-
and I'll say, yeah, you first and then team, but I'm just saying, you guys have been progressive in the way you thought. I mean, the cleanup. I don't know, just done an amazing job. So good job to you and good job to your staff.
I'd love to see that the museum is not thought of as a museum, as more of a cultural center or a gathering place. And that the farmer's market just proved that this last summer. So any events, anything that we could do for the city there, I'd love to, and it works out so well with the church parking lot. It's just easy.
Yeah.
So.
And if you haven't been, like, it's the pole barn that got all cleaned out, right? The one-
Yes,
the
actually, can I
cement.
just tell you one last thing? I don't want to take over.
Yeah.
There are 4 buggies down there, which are they're in horrendous condition, and there are a couple of wagons which are, we have a world-class carriage house where everything is represented beautifully. I have talked to Rebecca and to Tad Follendorf about those buggies, because what I'm trying to do is, it's the last little stretch in the pole barn, is if I could get rid of those and actually put in a little bit more cement, then I can actually stretch the exhibits out so that everything's laid out properly with a proper sign and what have you. We don't really need them in our collection, but so we talked to Tom Hicks, because like months ago, he called me and said, aren't you selling stuff at the museum? I'm like, no, but it just came to me, actually, he's putting in a $70 million complex down there, and he's looking for antique things that if the city could do some sort of agreement where he fixes them up, they still belong to the city, but they can be housed down there and push people to the museum. I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, I think that's a good.
And then we could actually then, because I know we've got huge 3.5 acres and big buildings, but we're out of space as far as displays.
Yes, I do.
So I did reach out to the county, and they have a draft kind of loaning agreement with their artifacts. So the Rebecca Turner sent that to us on there.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Super. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great
Real
night.
quick, any members of the public have any comments about?
Yes, question, those demographics include how many people drive electric cars? There's no electric vehicles,
No.
no electric charging stations here. I mean, Tesla, we have the Tesla charger.
We have the Tesla and we have the one going in at Meadowmont
Arnold.
as well.
Meadowmont.
It's a big one. There's one at
But none here.
Dunbar
Right,
House.
charging
Yeah,
stations make people stop and spend money,
They do,
Bang, bang,
Yes.
bang.
yes,
so.
because they.
Frogtown where the restaurants are, and Starbucks and
Or
McDonald's.
down by Pickle Porch.
Yeah.
I haven't
Bang, bang.
seen it so far, so what I will say is every time we're on a call with Place for AI and they have lots of kind of calls and trainings and stuff, they add new things to this, like every week, it seems like. And so I think as they're getting more data, as they see that there's a need for it, they will add it. So I wouldn't say it. It may not, I don't think it's here
It might be
now.
coming.
Today or
It
next week.
very well be coming.
We might be able to get some numbers from the charging stations that are here. I know dealing with the county, there are a lot of private ones that we have
They are
no
all
control, so.
Isabel, have you had any reason to chime in or comment? I haven't been meaning to leave you out. I need like a beep or an alarm from you. Okay.
No worries, you're fine. I'll just reiterate what Alvin said, which is thank you for the good job that you're doing. You and your team are all doing.
Thank you. I'll let them know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martin.
Bye.
Okay, moving on to item B is another presentation from Habitat for Humanity. Lenny?
Let me,
Oh, I'm sorry.
you know me, I love the stage.
It's the
So I'm
same.
Greg Smith, I'm the Habitat for Humanity president of the board. And I just want to thank you, Mayor Herndon and City Council and Rebecca for letting us come here tonight and give you an update on where we're at with our exciting program with Habitat for Humanity, specifically the Eureka Oaks project. So let me introduce some of the people that are here tonight. We have Bill Sost, who is our ZS2 Building Material Representative. We have Todd Peterson, who's on our board, and Lynn Ayers, who'll be speaking in a moment here, our Executive Director, and Hugh Walker, who is also online here, who is our General Contracting Consultant for now. So let me turn this over to Lynn to give you a little brief update where we're at, and please ask a lot of questions in case we don't answer.
Thanks. All right, that's so interesting about the stats, and I'm turning off my phone, I'm not. Wow, wow,
Ping, you've been pinged.
I didn't even know it. So thank you for letting us come here and giving you an update on the Eureka Oaks development. There's been a lot of exciting things happening, and we have some experts in the room in case you ask a question that someone else needs to answer because they've got that information right in front of them or in their brains. So first of all, we have been awarded a Cal Home funding award of $10 million for infrastructure.
Wow.
And I was at a meeting in Oakland when that award was announced, and I was with a bunch of other Habitat affiliates. And we also had two of the people who are going and pounding the pavement to make sure that this grant money is available. And they were in shock that Calaveras County got $10 million. We are a small rural community. And if you look at the award letter, we got more than anybody else in one fell swoop. And they were screaming and jumping up and down because they were so excited that all of their hard work was finally paying off, and it was coming to a small rural community like ours. And so all of us should be really, really proud of that accomplishment because it took from the city to planning to our amazing development contractor to this community to make this happen. It's not a small feat to apply for that award. It's hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents. And Amy was kind enough to be able to help us wade through that stuff. It's mind-boggling how much time and effort it takes. You guys know when you're writing for grants what it takes and how much information you need to share in order to get that funding award. So that award was just made about 3 weeks ago. As you also know, with awards like this, you get it and you're all excited and ready to go forth, and now we're waiting. So they have received all of our information, and we are waiting on the standard agreement. We're waiting on the disbursement agreement. We do know that we will be able to request advances for the infrastructure, so that was really great news for cash flow. Once we have those documents, then we can proceed on with our other funding. We just have to have that documentation in front of us so that lenders for a line of credit or gap funding will be able to see what the conditions are for this grant and then be able to fund. So we're holding, we're like a racehorse, and we're at the gate and we can't be let loose yet. So we're trying really hard to keep ourselves calm and wait till they get back to us, because they're going to do it in their own time. Ideally we'd have it right now. Hopefully we will hear within the next 30 to 60 days, and then we will be able to take the next steps that we need to take. And we are ready to do that. We're just waiting for the documentation. Hugh has already put out some bids, and we are waiting for those to come back. But again, everything hinges on when we have our standard agreement.
Bids for?
The, what do we call it, the general contracting for the infrastructure. Hugh, what do you call it?
Yes, it would be, yeah, so I've gone out for requested proposals on all of the improvements for all 65 single-family homes, including the sewer pump station, the PG&E plans, and I am out to bid also for the oversizing of the water line in Highway 49, which is a condition of approval on this project.
Yeah. So things are being done behind the scenes, and it's hurry up and wait. And so as soon as we get that standard agreement, we'll let you know, and things are going to be moving forward at a pretty quick rate. What else do we need to talk about? What kinds of questions might you have? You know, we've got all the drawings that we have in our office. We have drawings all over the office with the layout of the project, elevations of the homes, the colors, the 3 plans for the single-family homes. We've got the plans for the condominiums. So if you want to come and spend some time and see all of that, we've got them in beautiful color there, and we'd love to take you on a tour. If you want to come and see the actual development site, we can walk you out there so you can take a peek. And as long as the weather is permitting, it's pretty inspiring to see what's going to happen to that land. And it's going to bring a lot more business. It's going to bring a lot more employees. What we're hearing from our local businesses is no one can afford to live here. If they can afford to live here, they can't find a place to live. There's a local business owner up in Arnold who is housing their employees because the commute is too long. So we want to make sure that we have affordable, attainable, sustainable housing here in Angels Camp that serves Calaveras County, and that those families will come in here and they will spend their money locally, they will work locally, and it will be a boon to this economy.
So I have 2 questions.
Yes.
So what else, will the $10 million also help with the construction phase of the project?
For the homes, no, it's
Okay.
only infrastructure, dirt down,
Dirt down,
yes.
okay. And so then have you started the application process for, for folks who want to purchase a home?
So there are guidelines on the application, when we can start accepting applications from potential homeowners. And we're not there yet, because once that time starts ticking, we have a certain amount of time that we need to process and either decline them or say yes. So we've started an interest list, but we haven't really advertised that yet.
Okay.
We have about 170 homeowners on that list currently. We expect, once we open it up, we will have approximately 1,000 people who are interested, and then we will start accepting the applications. Obviously, they have to qualify for a low-interest loan, and most of our loans will be going through USDA. So we already have a partnership with them, and everyone will be working.
So will there be a homeowners association in that complex and, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Homeowners, CC&Rs, deed restrictions, so these homes will remain affordable, attainable. And if someone decides they're gonna sell, say they've been in it for 8 years and they need to sell, there's very specific requirements for selling that property. And they will not be able to sell it at market value.
So can you speak to those deed restrictions? So it has to be maybe potentially sold back to Habitat as a.
So that's
like a
a
first right of
potential,
refusal.
that is a potential, yes.
Otherwise, it's dealing with a realtor that's familiar with the deed restriction and then it's a different value, or I didn't understand that.
Talk to that.
So Todd will talk about that.
And then I guess I have one other question, and it's already come up. When we first were presented this project, one of the, I think the most passionate things that were spoken of at that time and still to this day is the idea that there was going to be a prioritization given to local contractors, local distributors, local, whether it's employment, work. And so I'm wondering, with regard to your RFP that you've released already, what is the language to have offered some sort of local opportunity? Is there a weight to if you're a local contractor, or if you live here, work here, been here? Is there something that's been followed up on that? Hugh?
Hi, so, Madam Mayor and City Council, what I have done is just been researching and getting names of contractors for this project. I am presently out to bid with Dan Emerson. He's a local. There's another underground company called Moyel. I think they're in Sonora, which is relatively close, only 30 or 35 minutes down the road. Nick and I can't remember the rest of their names. So there's 3 locals that are pretty close by that are bidding the underground. I could not find anybody that could do PG&E installation in the area. And I just got some names from KLA Landscaping, who did our landscaping plans, for contractors who could do the landscaping installation, but none of them are local. So this project is not like typical Habitat project where they're doing one house and they can take time to do it. This is 55 homes. The project, the way we have it set up so far, is if they're going to sell them at a pace of potentially 3 to 4 a month, then we need to be able to deliver 5 months later, 3 to 4 a month. So you have to be staffed up pretty decent and be a good sized company to be able to keep up with that pace. Christina from Aspen Street Architect is getting me names of subcontractors for other trades. I have talked already to the local floor covering company there. Has used them before. And so we're going to, as much as possible, we will use and get proposals from locals and, see how it turns out with the numbers and stuff. The budget does mean something because we have to be able to not overprice
Right.
the vertical construction and the admin and everything that comes after the infrastructure portion of it. So they can only sell these houses for a max price, and we can't let the house get higher than what they can sell it for. So there is going to be some consideration for that. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does, thank you very much. Then
Oh,
my,
by the way, I forgot a couple of ones, I'm sorry. I do have I'm calling them local because they're relatively close. Valley Springs, there's an HVAC company that did the plans for us that's probably gonna do the work. And they would do the mechanical and the HVAC, and then also locally a fire sprinkler company that would be doing the work.
okay,
So there's already a few that are gonna be tied to the project based on, doing the plans for the, houses.
okay. Thank you. What about the prioritization for applicants? Because I know that was one of the things also spoken to, that we have such a demand, we have such a lack of inventory for people that are already here, living here, working here. And how are you going to somehow weight those applications for those prioritizations? Is it off of your wait list, or is it weighted in a way that they get extra points if they work here already or live here already, as opposed to getting inundated with out of the area people that maybe qualify better on paper? Does that make sense? That's my
Yes,
question.
so there's fair housing lending laws
I know.
that we need to adhere
I
to.
can imagine.
Yes, and so our loan officer will be, he knows those laws. And, obviously, we want to be able to get anyone that's in Calaveras County, we want to be able to provide homes and condos to them if they qualify. So there's a lot of hoops that people are gonna have to jump through in order to qualify. We're hearing from USDA that 1 in 10 applicants will be able to meet the requirements.
Wow.
So we're gonna need approximately 1,000 people. So, the word will go out first in Calaveras, and then it will expand out. We anticipate that we're gonna need to expand out. We also have a lot of businesses like Save Mart, who has people living outside our county that need to have housing here. So the school system, the medical system, I mean, you name it. So we hope, it would be fantastic if we could fill those 107 slots with people that live here, but that's probably,
Live and work,
work,
yeah.
live and work. So, and there are a lot of people living outside our county lines that are working here. So we don't want to exclude them.
No, I'm not saying that. Just was wondering if they were giving a prioritization. So it's starting with the wait list that you've already established and building off of that, and then pulling out those that qualify. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So when I was a principal of San Andres Elementary, there was Habitat for Humanity, and they built a house. And the owners, potential owners, did sweat equity.
Correct.
It doesn't sound like that's what's gonna happen here. It sounds like you're gonna build a subdivision, and then people, go ahead.
You're correct. There is still sweat equity. And the
Okay.
sweat equity will come more on things that people can do that don't put them in danger and that also keep this project moving along.
Okay.
They can work in our office, they can work at a booth, they can work at a table, anything that is helping Habitat and the different programs. And
Not running a song.
So it's not.
they won't be climbing on a roof or
Yeah,
anything
so
like
it's
that.
not a group of volunteers who are gonna get together this Saturday and put up walls.
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
okay,
Yeah, there'll be things that volunteers can do,
okay.
but it'll be very specific. And because it's a development and timing is of the essence, because we've got to keep the crews on site and we've got to keep things moving along, we will determine with Hugh's assistance what that's going to be, what those volunteer opportunities are going to be. And so everyone will have to put in sweat equity. If they if they're not able physically to be able to help, there are there's things that people can do. They can be on the phone. We will customize it to the family.
But you would say the majority of the assistance would be on an administrative?
It could be administrative, it could be helping interior, painting, it could be helping clean up outside, it could help me, maybe helping with some of the landscaping. There are things, some might even be able to help up the walls with the ZS2. It would be volunteers that were specifically trained and.
Skill.
Mhm. Yeah.
Let me say that once the walls are up, then the last home that we built in Calaveras, there's a lot of tedious work that goes inside the house. I was part of that tedious work, along with the homeowner. Putting up towel racks and taking them down because you put them in backwards, and putting in all the blinds and all that. There's a lot of tedious work that spends hours and hours of time. So I don't think there'll be an issue with people getting in their sweat equity.
I just needed to wrap my head around, the scope of this project, and as you was talking about, there's a timeline. So, it's gotta move fairly quickly, it sounds like.
So let me expand on that. So homeowners don't have to work on their home.
Okay.
They can work on a variety of projects. They can work on multiple homes at the same time. So it's not limited to that one house model, which was you work on your home.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a departure, but it's still the habitat method.
Okay, we have a question from Caroline, then Alvin and Isabel, and then we'll open up for public comment. Just try to, for the sake of the order.
My question was, so we've got the 10 million. Do you have, or is there stuff in pipelines for future grants for the actual building of the homes and the materials for building homes?
So yes, we have things on our scope until we have the standard agreement and our disbursement agreement for the infrastructure. Those things are on hold until we can present those. But yes.
Yeah, you guys.
Is that all you had?
No, you guys have answered a bunch of my questions. I'm excited that the $10 million got awarded to you guys. That's pretty amazing. And that'll cover you. It sounds like it'll cover like the water, the sewer, the power. Will that include like the pad cut and stubbing up all the PVC pipe and everything at the home sites? Okay, you're shaking your head. I saw you do.
Yes.
And then my question would be like a rough timeline. I mean, we're coming into winter, so there's not gonna be a whole lot of dirt movement. Sorry. Oh, you're fine. There won't be a whole lot of dirt movement at this time of year, but are you guys planning on maybe if you're talking 60 days out and then you gotta get material on the site, but maybe like late spring, maybe type starting, and cutting pads type thing, and then I'm assuming few, I don't know. And then after that, when would be maybe the first time that you guys could start building your first home there? Or Hugh's got it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll answer that. I'll try to see if I can't keep it relatively simple. So once we do get started, and you're right, you can't move mud. So as soon as it starts raining, it makes it impossible to get out there. So we're going to have to just play by ear, by how the weather goes. The first thing that does happen is you have to balance, you mass grade and you balance all the dirt. We have a fair amount of retaining walls that have to get built on this project, concrete retaining walls, so that'll be happening simultaneously. Because there's a lot of cut and fill, there's a lot of testing for compaction on the pads. Generally, you have to be about 95% compaction test, so the Ridgeline Engineering will be out there doing a lot of compaction testing and viewing the soils being moved. We could be running into a lot of rocks. There's at least 2 months initially of just moving dirt and building the pads.
Right.
This is the infrastructure portion of it, which takes it all the way through curb gutter and streets and sidewalks, is someplace between 6 and 7 months in total. Generally, it's all the mass grading, the retaining walls, and it's, you go with the lowest utilities first, which is generally sewers. We'll have sewer, there's a lot of storm drain, water will go, and then PG&E comes in, then we may subgrade, compact, we run all of the electrical for the lighting, Then we do curb gutter, streets get paved, signing and striping, and all in between this is a multitude of things that are going on.
Right.
Generally, also things are not being shipped to the project, materials aren't being shipped until they need to be used. General contractors that are doing the underground and PG&E and their boxes and all of the things, they don't want their materials to disappear, even though we'll have fencing up and things like that. They'll just bring the material out as they need it. I would say, I have us someplace around 4 months into the project, once we have water on the project and we have a base rock down or a safe road to be able to drive on, we'll start 3 models, one of each size house. And those will take about, I would say, 4 to 5 months to get built for those models. And then right at the end of those models coming to completion, we would start sales. So sales, I showed, won't even start until about 8 to 9 months after we've broken ground on the project and we don't have any hiccups or delays. Once they do start selling and getting their applications and they're getting people approved, then we would start pulling building permits and all of the land will be ready to go. So it's going to be pulling building permits and getting going on the single family homes construction portion of it. So with any luck, you'd have people living out there. If we started in January, you'd have people living out there in, I would say, February of 2025.
Thank you, Hugh. That was a great explanation. Thank you very much.
That's why we have Hugh as our developer. It's amazing.
So, it's for me, I'm excited to have this workforce housing development coming in, and I think it's going to let people plant their roots in the community in the city, and I'm just looking forward to it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Someone had a question.
Isabel, so what I'll do, thank you. Isabel? Do you have anything that you'd like to add, or? Uh-oh, you're on.
Muted.
Now mute.
Okay.
She's
trying. She's good.
Sorry about that. I've been coughing this whole time. I just wanted to say thank you to Hugh. Everyone before me answered all of the questions, and Hugh, just thanks for that great description. Yeah, and congratulations on the grant.
Thank you. So also, if you are interested, on Tuesday, Senator Alvarez-Gil will be visiting. She wants to see the site and to see the drawings, and they will be coming into town, and let me know if you're interested in popping by to say hello.
We'd love to have you guys come out and take a look.
Yeah.
Wear sensible shoes.
It's next Tuesday
Yes,
2:30.
2:30?
at your office.
at our office.
Okay, so for public comment, what I'll do is respectfully, I'll have you come up and introduce yourself and speak and ask your question or your comment. We'll keep track of those. And then at the end of all public comment, we'll have you guys come back up and address those questions.
Oh, okay.
Or address, for the sake of time. Otherwise, we'll be here till midnight.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you so
Sounds
much.
good.
Okay, so I'm ready for whoever might have public comment. You can come up to them.
Good evening. Matt Stammerjohn, City of Angels, new planning commissioner, so I haven't seen everything coming through. My number one question is, on the $10 million grant, how much does that cover of your total estimated cost?
For infrastructure?
So what we'll do is we'll just keep track of all the questions. Great question. That's a good thought.
And then,
Go ahead. The other.
is the city on the hook for any of the paving or curbs and sidewalks part of it?
Okay. Thank you. Any other public comment?
You can answer those.
Sure. You can answer. Anybody online, Rose?
Any public comment online for this item?
No.
Okay, well, that was easy.
Yeah.
So if you want to step back up and possibly answer one or both of those questions, you can.
So the Cal Home Award will cover all the infrastructure, dirt down. What was the second part?
It was a question about curbs and gutter for the
Right,
city.
council.
City.
Would the city be on?
No,
Yeah, the answer is no.
no,
So, no.
no.
But I
No.
do want to speak, I was at an event that you had a couple weeks ago, it was your holiday event, and that's when you announced your 10 million, and also there was a donation from Mark Twain Medical Center, Dignity Health, I think they're called, for
It's combined. yeah.
above ground.
Mhm.
Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
That
Yes,
was 75,000? Was it 75? So I
70.
thought that was, they're already on their start to additional funding and donations that are being received for above ground, not just the 10 million underground.
yes.
So, good, yeah.
And if any one of you win the lottery, we also accept it.
Yeah, the $10 million is just ground level.
Hugh has something.
Uh-huh, go ahead, Hugh.
If I could add something, not to get into the weeds, but, there is a homeowners association, a common area homeowners association. And that homeowners association, by the conditions of approval and development agreement, will take care of all of the landscaping, the sewer pump station, the, streets, curb gutter, sidewalks, and light fixtures, and the electrical that goes for the light fixtures, for the street lights. So, and the storm drain, any of the surface storm drain. So the city really doesn't need to be, they'll only maintain the water, of course, and sewer and storm if there's anything that comes up with that under the asphalt. Anything above that is paid for by the homeowners association.
What is the homeowners association fee? Will the residents have an HOA fee that they pay into every month
Yes,
or a year?
Yes, it's being worked out right now. There's a whole process because there's an HOA, there's a process of, an application that has to go through the Department of Real Estate. And a gentleman named John Hazard is working on all of that information right now.
So in addition to qualifying for the home, the families have to also be able to make sure that they can afford the HOA.
so
fee.
that's all part of that qualification process, because everything that they're gonna need to pay, they have to be able to qualify, with a maximum of 30% of their income. So it will be affordable. And it may be that we're stacking some different grants and financing options so that they can afford it.
Gotcha.
Depending on the need.
Just one question. Is this a first-time home buyer only, or does it not matter about prior?
It does not matter as long as they meet the qualifications. It has to be their only home. They can't have rental property. They can't rent this out. They can't Airbnb it. It has to be owner occupied, lots of stipulations.
Or the
around
bank
it.
comes in, USDA comes in and deals with that.
Mm-hmm.
In our experience has been almost 100% of the people who come and buy our homes are previous renters.
Yeah.
They have never owned a home before.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good job, you guys.
Exciting, happy holidays.
Thank you.
We're just as excited to see it go in.
Yes.
Yay.
All right, okay. Moving on, we have item C.
Yeah, it's a good time to go.
This is
I'm not sure to hear about the project.
You're here for the greenhouse, yes.
Yeah, and the birthday wish.
Item C, the City of Angels draft greenhouse gas reduction plan, Angels.
Mayor and council members, we have, Sierra Business Council is online and they would like to first give us a short presentation. But I will mention that really the focus tonight is on not that whole giant thing.
Yeah.
We have previously looked at the inventory, previously looked at the wildfire plan. We're really just focusing on releasing to the public the greenhouse gas reduction plan. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Meredith, and then we will both answer any questions that you might have. So hopefully, go ahead, Meredith.
Great, thanks so much, Amy. I will share my screen really quickly here. All right.
Yep.
Is that working?
Yep.
Okay, good. Well, good evening, members. Thank you for having me present tonight. My name is Meredith Anderson, and I'm a project manager at Sierra Business Council, the lead consultant on this project. I'm excited to give an overview of the city's greenhouse gas reduction plan, I'll refer to as the GHGRP, in addition to implementation and funding opportunities. So we work closely with city and CCOG staff, Amy and Rebecca at the city, and then Melissa at CCOG to develop this plan. And I will be able to field any questions at the end of the presentation. And if I don't know an answer to a question, I will bring it back to the consultant team and get back to you. All right, so first we'll kind of just go over who is on the consultant team, quick review the greenhouse gas inventory and emissions reduction targets. Then we'll get into the greenhouse gas reduction plan measures, implementation, and funding, and then next steps. And then, like I said, at the end, I'll open it up for questions. So our consultant team, Sierra Business Council, was the lead consultant and was tasked with developing the energy measures for the greenhouse gas reduction plan. We are a nonprofit based up in Truckee. Rincon Consultants developed the transportation measures for the GHGRP, and Harris and Associates developed the solid waste and water and wastewater measures. So I know we've already presented the inventory findings, but I just wanted to give you a quick refresher. You can see that this is the government operations inventory results. You can see that the city's vehicle fleet produces most of the government operations emissions, with employee commute at number 2, then water and wastewater, solid waste, and buildings and facilities all having kind of a smaller footprint. So what will really be important from a government operations standpoint is reducing emissions from vehicle fleet and employee commute. And then for our community water inventory results, similar to government operations, being in a rural area, transportation emissions are quite high. Energy is also fairly significant, and then solid waste and water and wastewater are a much smaller piece of the pie. So you'll notice that in the measures, these are the sectors that are heavily targeted to reduce the transportation and energy. All right, so from the community-wide emissions data, forecasts were developed to provide an estimate of future emissions in each sector and in total. So there are 2 forecasts created, business as usual and also known as the BAU, and then the legislative adjusted business as usual, the ABAU. So the BAU forecast is shown in the darker top line, projecting out to 2045. The BAU forecast assumes no changes or variables that might affect emissions over time. So it does not account for any local, state, or federal policies that could impact future emissions. So growth rates were calculated using projections of population, employment rates, and BMT projections. And then I'll get into the ABAU forecast after I talk about the city's target setting. So a critical part of climate action planning is to set the greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets. So these targets help guide local governments in developing and adopting energy and greenhouse gas reducing policies and programs. And they also provide a performance metric by which it can be measured. So California has set statewide emissions targets, including Senate Bill 32, which specifies a target of 40% below 1990 emissions levels by 2030. Executive Order B5518, which aims for carbon neutrality by no later than 2045, and then net of negative emissions after that, which is what kind of the city the city previously adopted as their emissions reduction target. And then Assembly Bill 1279 just kind of superseded that executive order, requiring that the state achieves net zero greenhouse gas emissions as soon as possible, but no later than 2045, and achieve and maintain net negative GHG emissions thereafter. And then, also to reduce emissions to at least 85% below 1990 levels. So in order to evaluate Angels Camp's ability to meet these targets, a back cast was conducted to estimate 1990 emissions, and then target lines for SB 32 and B 5518, which is what the city adopted, added to those forecasts. So the emissions gap is kind of that difference between the forecasted emissions and the target values. I will also note that qualified plans qualified plans that meet CEQA requirements include ones that meet or exceed SB 32. So reducing emissions to 40% below 1990 levels by 2030. So this is our legislative adjusted business as usual forecast for the community-wide GHG emissions data, and this is again projected out to 2045. This ABAU forecast does account for emissions reductions resulting from legislative action. So this includes state and federal emissions legislation, including vehicle fleet standards, renewable portfolio standards, projections for population and employment, among other factors. So you can see the ABAU projection marked on the right side of this figure. The dotted line shows where the city will be when these GRP measures are implemented, and then the soft yellow line shows the city's reduction target. So with successful implementation of GHGRP measures, the city will reach its 2030 target, but won't quite reach its 2045 target of carbon neutrality, which is okay because that is not a part of the CEQA process. So on to the GHGRP. So the purpose of this plan is to provide a roadmap for the city to achieve its greenhouse gas reduction goals and to outline steps to reduce the city's emissions, promote sustainable development, and enhance community resilience. So these are just a few benefits to the city, the greenhouse gas reduction plan. And like Amy said, I'm not going to dive too deep into each of the measures or anything like that, but I'll just give kind of a quick overview of the quantified emissions. The measures in this table are ones that were quantified and include increasing renewable energy, energy efficiency, and community outreach regarding energy conservation, establishing end-of-life ordinances for appliances, and potential reach codes for energy efficiency and electrification. And then finally, incentivizing all electric new construction. The transportation measures include increasing electric and zero emission vehicle adoption, decarbonizing the city municipal fleet and employee commutes, increasing active transportation and public transit within the city, decarbonizing off-road equipment and vehicles, creating a tourism economy in the city, establishing the city of Angels as a pilot program for these transportation measures, and then developing a biofuel industry. So it will also be important to obtain state and federal funding for these transportation programs. Because emissions were lower for solid waste and water and wastewater, there are less measures for these sectors. So solid waste measures include diverting more organics from the waste stream and diverting more to Rock Creek landfill from Forward landfill since it's closer to the city. And then finally, our water and wastewater measures include implementing energy efficiency measures at the wastewater treatment plant, using reclaimed water, and then requiring low flow water fixtures within the city limits. So in terms of implementation of the GHGRP measures will generally fall under the following city departments. Depending on the measure type and the sector that the measure is targeting. So the majority of the implementation work will fall under the departments of city administration, community development, and public works. And then, some of the measures more relating to energy efficiency, at facilities, will be implemented by fire department, police department, and museum. So funding opportunities will kind of be the beef of this presentation. So I kind of split out these funding opportunities into local, state, and federal opportunities. And there are obviously many more out there, but these are just some of the major pots of funding right now for these measures. So in the local category, I've included Sierra Nevada Energy Watch, which is actually another program that Sierra Business Council runs. It's an energy efficiency technical assistance program that serves commercial and government PG&E customers in 15 Sierra Nevada counties, including Calaveras and the city of Angels. So there are opportunities for low to no cost water heaters, other energy efficiency retrofits at 0% financing, and then the Rural Regional Energy Network, or the Rural RUN, is another energy efficiency program that's been approved by the CPUC and is slated to launch in 2024. So this program will serve both residential and commercial customers. So those two are both related to energy. I have a few examples of recent funding opportunities for state agencies as well. The Governor's Office of Planning and Research has recently offered the Adaptation Planning Grant Program, which provides funding to help fill local, regional, and tribal planning needs, providing communities with resources to identify climate resilience priorities, and then also to support climate resilient infrastructure projects across the state. And I know that they will be releasing round 2 of this grant in the spring, I believe. Another opportunity through OPR is the Regional Resilience Planning and Implementation Grant Program. So this funds regional climate resilience efforts, including identifying climate resilience priorities, building capacity, implementing projects, things like that. And then the other program that OPR has recently offered is the Extreme Heat and Community Resilience Program that looks to reduce the impacts of extreme heat and coordinate across the state on the pilot effect. Next is the Strategic Growth Council. They have a few opportunities that have come up recently as well. Regional Climate Collaborative, which is the capacity building grant program for under-resourced communities in California to kind of work on climate action. And then Community Resilience Centers, which funds new construction and upgrades of neighborhood level resilience centers to provide shelter and resources during climate and other emergencies. So there are several other state agencies that provide significant funding for climate action, including California Energy Commission, the CEC, California Air Resources Board, CalRecycle, and the Community Economic Resilience Fund. There are also several federal agencies that are providing funding. These are all coming down through the Department of Energy, Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Transportation, and then there's a lot of money coming down through the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act as well. And so to kind of keep on top of all of these funding opportunities, the California Climate and Energy Collaborative actually has a really great funding resources website. So that is something to check out for all of these upcoming opportunities. All right, so the next steps, it'll be important for the city to continue inventorying emissions in order to monitor emissions reduction progress and inform any future planning efforts. Another next step will include beginning the CEQA analysis process. The city can coordinate planning efforts with the county and other agencies to best align with state and local emission reduction goals and targets. And just a note that future inventories and forecasts will continue to improve in methodology and accuracy. So thank you again for having me this evening. And I can open it up to any questions. And yeah, I'll do my best to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Who wants to go first?
Meredith is always,
Always.
Meredith, as I understand it, it really isn't 1990 numbers, aren't those 2018 numbers? Because, and they extrapolated that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
No,
Okay, so yes, this inventory, if I didn't mention that, sorry about that, was for 2018. But we backcasted to 1990 using, kind of a proportion, from using the 2018 inventory numbers, and then also kind of the statewide emissions inventory. And we got rid of the sectors that, don't count or, the city doesn't have. And then kind of extrapolated using the statewide inventory to get those 99 numbers.
So kind of presumed, it's a presumed factor. It could be worse, it could be better, correct?
yeah, I do have other questions once we get to the plan itself. And I could ask them now. I mean, I think in general, the mandate is for the city to develop a greenhouse gas reduction emission program, correct? But, when you look at the packet and you look at some of the measures, some of them say pursue funding. I would like all of them to say pursue funding. So because, there's an assumption that, I don't want to see the public bear the cost. I don't want to see the city bear the cost. I mean, this mandate is coming from above. And so I would love to see everyone of the implementation measures say pursue funding to assist in or whatever.
Yeah.
Amy?
So, to be honest with you, I don't know why I'm echoing. There we go. That is reasonable on a good 85% of the measures.
Right.
Some have to do with forming policies. So obviously pursuing funding to come to you to.
I agree.
So, yes, so in general, we are doing that in most of these measures, and in table 22, it basically emphasizes that. Most of these talk about pursuing grants. Sometimes it's not just pursuing grants or pursuing funding. Sometimes it's also identifying incentive programs and offering incentives through existing programs, education and outreach. So it's sort of a combination of all of those things.
Perfect. Because, if the expectation is when we develop this plan, that and part of me thinks that the only alternative is more energy efficient wash machines, if my wash machine goes out. But, if there's an additional cost associated with that, I mean, are we thinking of creating some kind of grant or working with, a local provider or?
Yes,
So-
and yes. So basically, Habitat, who was just here, we have already approached them. They will help with retrofits for houses for people who can't afford it.
Perfect.
And a large part of that is upgrading their appliances and what have you. This gives us a little bit more guidance as to when you upgrade that appliance, what you're gonna aim for when you do it. So that's that. I also wanted to add, tying this back to Habitat for Humanity, this is not unlike a housing element. I've never been entirely clear why it gets treated so differently. Our housing element is a mandate by the state, and we're required to do all of those programs for ADUs, for second dwelling units, for all that stuff. They tell us every 7 to 10 years, you need to have 586 new dwelling units. We have never achieved that, but we have always done our best to implement all of those programs. And once in a while, it all comes together and you get Habitat there, you get all the programs you've been working on, and they all come together and you do get something, you do achieve something. That is what this is.
Exactly.
It is the same thing.
Okay.
We are going to do our darndest,
Okay.
and find as much funding as we can to help ourselves. And all the stars will align, and we may be surprised at what we can achieve, just like with Habitat, right? So,
May I ask one more? And then.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, so Amy, under RE1,
yes,
increase community renewable energy. And it
yes,
says convert 50% of existing residential grid electricity and 30% of existing commercial grid to renewable electricity by 2030. I would like, can this be one, I'll ask you that question. Can this be one of them to pursue funding to convert? Because who's gonna bear, is that gonna fall on homeowners or what?
okay, so there's two things here. There is cost benefit. When you look at how much reduction overall in numbers you're gonna get out of RE1, sort of a high cost and not a lot of reduction. So are we going to pursue this one the most diligently? We will be pursuing it, but probably not to the extent that we're going to pursue the one EB3, where we're actually going to see a significant reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, or TR1, where we're going to see a significant reduction in greenhouse gases. Table 22, I'm going to refer you back to that again, talks about doing, in order to fulfill this, education, pursuing funding, technical assistance, incentive programs, and capital improvements. So again, it's not just pursue funding too, it is type of action needed. You take that implementation program plus the action needed, plus who's going to do it, plus the cost benefit. So it's not just.
So you believe that the plan as written is going to meet the mandate and also provide some, what I don't know what word I'm thinking of right now, but to provide some leverage, protection for the city and its citizens.
So what it's going to do is when we have a really great developer come in and we need to do a mitigated neg deck for them, they're not going to have to go and do an EIR or their own greenhouse gas program. So economic development. And at the same time, we're reducing emissions. Hey, fine. When you reduce those emissions, you're usually saving yourself money and energy costs over time. So yes, I see this again, just like a housing element. They give you this laundry list of things that you look at and you go, oh, I will never be able to do all of those. You do your darndest and the stars align and you get something great done. We applied for the Resilience Center grant, already referencing this plan. And it gave us a lot of brownie points. And one of the things we talked about was doing education for biofuel. Well, that sounds pretty pie in the sky, doesn't it? Well, guess what? We have Columbia College who already does natural resources education for that kind of thing. We've talked to Sierra Resource Management, who's already opening a plant. They would love to work with us to do biomass stuff. So when you actually start looking into some of these, hey, when you try, you actually can get somewhere sometimes. So.
And we're not dealing with agriculture as we are.
And we are not dealing with
that.
So we did try to make sure that on table 22, it does specify if we would need funding and grant writing on the ones where that would make sense. And on the ones where it doesn't, then that's.
Okay, all right.
Is that the negative dollar sign one?
The RE1, has dollar, that means it's gonna be very expensive. And when you go back to chapter 5, it tells you what kind of reduction you're gonna get for all that effort. You're gonna get some reduction, but if you look at some of these others, like the, electrical vehicle charging stations. Lots of money out there for trying to do that. You gotta go get it. There's just a lot we could be doing there, and it's a lot of bang for a relatively small buck. So.
how often is the evaluation? I guess I don't know this. How often are we evaluated to see how we're doing? What?
You're supposed to every 2 years turn in a report, which I say yay, because with a housing element, gotta do it every single year, which is a pain. And you have to go program by program. This doesn't have nearly as many programs as our housing element. This would be a lot easier to implement. And yeah, it's stuff that we do a lot of. It's just another one of those things that have been handed down by the state, and it's another one of those things we need to do. And gee, maybe we can reduce some emissions while we're at it.
Caroline, Isabel.
I'm good. I've seen it coming down over it, so.
I don't remember reading it, but I remember Meredith mentioning something about Angels Camp being a pilot program.
Oh,
Yes.
What, can you,
So
don't know that.
there, some of those tours we were talking about and where they come from, some of those Bay Area communities, they think highly of things like, let's go on a vacation in a community that is sustainable and is doing good things for the environment. Well, guess what? You can market stuff like that. And nobody else is trying to do that. And that one of the suggestions we had from Sierra Business Council was, hey, why don't you guys start marketing yourselves and using that in your outreach to people to get that sector, you know, some of those well-to-do people going up to Worldmark from some of those places in San Francisco with their electrical vehicles, get them up here. Market it.
So we're working closely with the county on many of these aspects.
Many of these.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Transportation is one of them. And
That's the huge
that's a
one
huge
to
one.
get,
Okay.
yeah, but we need to do our part and.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Like Transit agency has to have so many percent, I forget what it is, but buses are gonna start to come into play, EV, and so there's a whole.
And we already have a plan. We're just chatting at the bit to start getting it adopted and implemented.
Yeah, some of this can't be implemented unless we do it together with the county.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I see that there's a lot that needs to come to council in 2025, it looks like.
So we have to do the environmental on this. All we're asking you tonight is to release it to the public for 30 days with comments. Then we start working on the environmental document that goes along with this. Then it comes back to you one more time because you didn't enjoy reading it all once already. We're gonna make you do it twice. And then we talk about adoption.
So Amy, I don't want to create more work for you or your staff, who was you and you. But is there like a Cliff Note version of this when we release it to the public? I mean, we got all these things.
There is, honestly, ignore the appendices.
Right.
Well, so, okay, I mean, I want it to be, if
And
we
the
do
Cliff
this.
Note version, look at table 22.
Okay,
Right.
so you'll kind of direct, maybe as you put this out, please, while you.
Save yourself some
I was
reading.
overwhelmed at first, but then once I started getting there, because I love graphs.
Right.
I'm a USA Today kind of girl.
Okay.
I love the graphs, and it wasn't overwhelming. I didn't find it overwhelming. I did not read the.
Yeah, yeah.
But she did say, do I have to read?
I did. I'm like, do I have to read all of this?
Okay,
Yeah.
much of the back, like a lot of the back is the historical documentation
Right.
on how we got here.
Right.
And so you've already seen it at some point.
Right.
So it's just kind of like a refresher. But yeah, we can work on how we, how we put it on our
Yeah, 'cause it can look
website. So
overwhelming.
it can be kind of broken apart if you want to read more, more in depth.
In fact, Meredith, I'm assuming you'll send us a copy of your PowerPoint and we
Oh,
can
see
put
that?
that on the website.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
I was thinking the same thing, maybe in the part.
I was
Because that pretty much,
I think
There's
there's some nuts and bolts in there that the community needs to read. Because I think that they're gonna wanna say something about some of the stuff in here.
I think the table and then referring from the table back to the kind of more meat and potatoes
Yeah.
portion of it.
Because there's a couple in here that I'm thinking our community's gonna have something to say about. Feedback.
I think,
How about public comment tonight? Does anybody have anything to say about it tonight that's here with us in mind blown? Yeah. How about quickly, anybody online? And Isabel, I haven't seen your hand up yet, so if you do, just jump in.
Meredith, can you unshare your screen now, please?
There, thank you. So, did you go ahead and, did you say something? I couldn't hear.
I just said I was good.
Okay, good. Meredith, I would like to thank you for your presentation. It was very informative. It was helpful. And yeah, we have a lot of uncovering to do. Mike, did you have something else you were getting ready to add a minute ago?
No, I disagree with Caroline. I think there are some triggers in this report
Oh, yeah.
that are gonna generate, and I think, you know, it's important for all of us to be on the same page and make sure people understand that, you know, these are targets that we're trying to meet, and we're gonna try to do everything we can to help them meet these targets, because we spent a lot, when I was on the planning commission, we spent a lot of time with the off-road vehicle ordinance.
That's the one that I saw that I thought,
You
oh,
know,
this is gonna.
We spent a lot of time, and we gotta take into consideration, you know, how many people in this county make their living doing stuff with off-road and we, you know, but I agree. I think we're gonna hear folks, and we have to be ready to respond as we always do, in a reasonable way. How do we solve that?
So,
To
this is
release
just
or not?
informational, or are you needing a motion to move forward with the CEQA? You need.
We need a
I'll make a
motion to
motion.
release it to the public.
The motion to
Yeah.
release to the public. Okay, we have a motion.
I'll make a motion to release the greenhouse gas reduction fund.
I'll second.
Okay, Rose?
Shemente?
Aye.
Barolia?
Aye.
Sharado?
Aye.
Herndon?
Aye.
Moncada?
I
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So Amy, why don't you stand up there and we'll do Utica Park, and then
Thank you,
after that, I'd like to
Meredith.
take
Thank
a
you,
quick
Meredith.
break. Thanks again, Meredith.
Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you.
Utica Park update, please.
Yes, so, towards the end of this week, but probably towards the end of next week, there's going to be some drilling occurring out at the site. They are trying to determine the width and exact precise locations of the mine shafts, so they can put together a plan for either sealing them or avoiding them. So that's where we are on that. This morning, the playground subcommittee met and we completed the last details on the design for the playground, which we will present to the full committee on the 14th. That's our next meeting. And we hope at the beginning of that meeting to get a thumbs up from them and then start ordering playground equipment. Yes. So there's that. And then we will start working on the adult playground equipment, if you will, the adult exercise equipment. So that's our next step on that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I don't have a question, but I want to commend you. You did an excellent job navigating the last park committee meeting. And I appreciated your input and your patience and helping people understand what we were doing. So thank you for that.
Thank you. It was smoother than the one before.
Other comments? So I've attended both of those meetings, and I agree with Mr. Chimente, absolutely. They're informational, they're collaborative. I think that the public is invested into this park, and it's shown in those stakeholder committees. So I'm happy with the designs, I'm excited, and yeah. Next steps are gonna be exciting, very exciting. So thank you for that. Public comment on Utica Park.
Just a question.
Go ahead.
I'm asked more frequently than any other question. When is the park gonna reopen? Is there a target date that some portion of the park will reopen? Is that July of next year, or is that a moving target, or?
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah. We see that question a lot online,
Yeah.
and I think it's been brought up.
The answer is Thanksgiving of next year.
Okay.
If we can open the playground before that, and if it's safe while they're working on other parks, we'll try to do that. But officially,
Thanksgiving of next year.
We're gonna break ground in March.
We hope so.
Hope so, break.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other public comment? And any comment online? Okay, real quick, Amy, the next meeting is on the 13th?
14.
Okay, your
And
staff
you-
report says,
Oh, did I? Sorry.
hold on. I just want to get this right because I have to get it on the calendar right. It says
Whatever Wednesday is.
Wednesday's
Wednesday the
13th.
13th. Okay,
Wednesday's-
so you're right. You said 14th here, but it is December 13th,
13th.
Wednesday.
Sorry.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. And at this point, I'd like to take just a quick break and then we'll come back and continue with item E. Okay, so we're gonna continue with item E, which is to approve resolution 2386, authorizing the purchase of assessors parcels 060018003 and 060018004, totaling 2.99 plus or minus acres adjacent to 584 South Main Street, which is our former city hall. Amy.
Mayor and council members, this is in accordance with the Community Resilience Center grant, which we prepared based upon our pending greenhouse gas reduction plan proposal, to get approximately $100,000 worth of funding that would help us secure these parcels. In addition to $250,000 we've already allocated to rehab City Hall. Basically, the resolution does on the fourth whereas, in answer to Mike's question, it says the purchase and sales agreement provides the city would have to secure grant funding before completing the purchase of the proposed parcels. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
So the seller is fine with this? I mean, so it's not a financial commitment at this point. It will, and
For the grant, we had to show that we had some control over the property.
okay,
So they have entered into a we're willing seller letter with us. And then we would proceed from there if you pass this resolution in entering into a more formal agreement with all those contingencies, including the geotechs, the phase one, which by the way, they had done both, and we have drafts of both of those that have been done previously, but they're a little outdated here.
My only question is that those contingencies are not in the resolution. The grant funding contingency is, but the other contingencies are not, but they're in the contract. They're in your staff report. I'm just wondering if they also need to exist in that resolution.
I defer.
No, since it's in the approved.
Exhibit.
Okay, so the resolution speaks to the contract and it's, thank you.
Within those are within contract.
That was my only question. And then I'm going to Alvin, Caroline.
No
is,
questions.
No question? Nothing for you? Is that?
I have a question in terms of the purchase price. So I noticed on the report, it states, what was that, on the third page of the report, it states that the, in response, the purchase offer was amended to $435 and accepted by the sellers with the same contingencies.
Yep.
But then on the page, it's 268, and it's the second page of the purchase and sale agreement. In paragraph number 2, it says purchase price, it says it shall be not more than $440,000.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if there was a discrepancy or sort of why the difference.
We'll need to adjust that. Yeah, we'll adjust that. Basically, our attorneys drew that up without me having told them that, hey, we lowered it by $5,000.
Okay.
And then I was just curious too, I know Amy, you mentioned that there was a geotechnical report, but my question in terms of if we're doing anything to bring those up to date, do we have an estimated cost on what that's gonna entail?
Using what we just had to pay to do the cut, I'd say it'd be around $5,000, and that would be paid for out of the grant. We budgeted for that. Yeah, we actually budgeted more than that. We also budgeted for doing drilling in case we had to do exploratory.
Got it, thank you.
Can you refresh our memories on the timeline and the dates of the grant?
The one they told us or what they're actually going to do?
Probably the realistic one.
Yeah, we're probably expecting to hear back in March, that we were supposed to hear back this month.
January, or, yeah.
This December.
Yeah, December.
So, no, they are taking their time and they lost some staff, so.
So Amy, to your knowledge, did the medical center have any issues with anything underground or anything when they built it?
Yes, they had to blast one rock.
Okay, so
Yeah.
more.
And they had one, hole that they had to plug.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, members of the public, does anybody have any questions or comments about this item?
Nancy Little, do you have an appraisal of the property?
Yes.
Yeah.
And who did it?
Scheller, he's a state certified appraiser for the state of California.
It seems really, really high for 3 acres in Angels Camp.
Okay, any other public comment? Any online?
No.
Okay, bringing it back to council. Regarding the price, do you vet, I mean, they're an appraiser, they know what they're doing. They provide an appraisal. Do you look at the comparators, the comparison?
They looked at comps, yes.
And you specifically, I'm not familiar with who they comped it against. Are you aware and comfortable with
I
those?
looked at the comps that they used. There weren't a lot of them out there.
Right.
And I do know that the different parcels actually appraised differently, each parcel, which was interesting. What's most important is that when you get a state grant, they require you to use somebody that has certain certifications that they would accept. And there are two, one in Foley County, two in Foley County and one here, and we used the one who was from here. So there are only 3 choices really in the area.
Okay, so we're looking for anybody interested in approving resolution 2386 for the agreement.
I will make.
Well, and we're gonna fix the agreement to the right price.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
the 435, or no,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
435,
Right.
not the 4.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is it okay for me to ask one more quick question?
Yeah.
If things change and we don't get the grant, or, I mean, we still have the opportunity to change our mind. If things
You can
are
set it.
overwhelming, this agreement, we don't open escrow.
This,
I guess my question is, I bought property before, you get into escrow and you get out of escrow, but is this a little unorthodox to do an agreement rather than just an escrow? We're not doing the escrow yet, so.
Well,
What are
have you ever opened an escrow with contingencies?
Uh-huh.
That's basically what we're doing.
the contingencies? So we have to get out of escrow based on some of the contingencies.
Yes.
Understood.
And unless they clear all of them.
I guess I'm okay. Okay, Rose, go ahead.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Shemente?
Aye.
Ferolio?
Aye.
Sharado?
I
Herndon?
Aye.
Moncada?
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item F is public hearing, reintroduce, waive the second reading to adopt ordinance 536, renaming chapter 17.06 as general provisions and exceptions, and adding, consolidating, amending, or updating provisions for mobile food vendors, garage sales, temporary construction trailers, recreation vehicles, storage and living, special events, special event permits, certificates of occupancy, storage containers, cottage food operations, and movie sets. amending and updating excessive slopes, temporary and seasonal sales stands, accepting farming and ranching practices, construction in floodplains, occupancy changes in commercial buildings in commercial zones, and eliminating standards for auto wrecking yards as set December 5th, 2023 December 5th, 2023 today for a second reading. Amy.
Mayor and council members, this would be the second reading, and if adopted today, it would go into effect 30 days after today. There is one amendment, I believe I mentioned this last time, under section 1706-180 storage containers, item B2. It says a building permit or waiver shall be secured for any storage container over 100 square feet. That should be 200 square feet. That's what triggers a building permit, is the 200 square feet.
Okay.
And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Amy, did you take into consideration any longer about the number of animal units per acre or anything? Did you talk with planning or?
So we have animal units that are included in our code under specific zoning districts.
Sure.
Already. So yeah, we actually stole from City of Sonora, which worked on theirs extensively with their ag department at their high school and their ag directors. So I think we nailed it.
Was that one of the ordinances that we passed earlier this year? or-
You weren't here when we passed it. This was passed about 4 years ago, I was.
So as
Questions, Mike? Sorry.
as I remember, there was some, so would that ordinance then supersede this this regarding animal units and
So the animal units you're looking at is in reference to which section?
I did. Oh, it's 17.06.120 maybe?
Oh, acceptable farming and ranching practices.
Yes.
There are no changes to that section.
Yeah.
That was added in there because it went with the flow. And so we just left it there. We updated it because we got rid of a particular zoning district.
Okay.
But when you look there, in that zoning district, RE5, RE2, RE1, there's a definition in there that, I don't think we call it animal units, but it's something real similar in our definitions. and
It's
it lays
animal
some-
unit.
There we go.
Yeah.
And then it lays it all out in the definitions, exactly how many chickens, how many per acre and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, it says non-hooked, yet hooked animal unit.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna go for public comment. Did you have questions? Any public comment on this item? And any comments online, please?
No.
All right, bringing it back. Any final questions or comments from council? If not, I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion
I will second.
and a second.
Shemente,
Hi.
Brolio,
Yep.
Corrado,
Aye.
Herndon,
Aye.
Moncada. Thank you.
Moving on to item G, this is public hearing to reintroduce, waive the second reading to adopt ordinance 538, adding a new section 1706-210 addressing vacant buildings and set December 5th for the second reading. Amy.
Mayor and council members, this is the vacant buildings ordinance that we discussed. I'll basically take questions, and I do have one correction. I believe I had this on the last one too. It's a California Health and Safety Code citation that was slightly off. It's in section 1706-210. D, as in dog, 3, says building maintenance, interior and exterior, maintain all buildings without substandard conditions as described in the California Health and Safety Code section 1792.3 G, eliminate the G, it should just be 0.3, period. And I'm just gonna leave it to questions on that one. Because I believe there are some.
I think we should say again publicly that this ordinance does allow for a fee waiver. If, you know, the owner comes forth and works with the city, the fees would be waived. I've been talking with some folks, and I don't know how council feels about including some kind of fire marshal inspection every 6 months, or, you know, depending on the occupancy of the building or not, and willingness of the party to enter into an agreement with the city. I worry a whole bunch about fire. I know we talk about revenue loss and things like that, but fire to me is more of an immediate danger, especially if a building is left vacant without some kind of plan to renovate or lease it, et cetera. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Amy, about including a fire marshal inspection.
We've discussed it with the fire marshal, they're fine, they say that in order to do it, it should be in the code. I would ask that it be once every 6 months, or if occupancy changes, more frequently if occupancy changes, because we always do need to do one whenever there's a change of occupancy. So that's all I would add on that.
Comments?
Maybe after some public comment.
Isabel, do you want to hear from the public for a little bit and then come back to us?
That's fine.
Are you good with that? Okay, so maybe some public comment on this, as we have members from the public that may want to comment on this vacancy ordinance.
Nancy Whittle. I'm really against this ordinance. My family does own a commercial building, the Prince Building in Elkville. My sister and I owned it since 1993 when our mother died. We never took any money out of it. Everything that it rented for, and during that time, it may have been vacant maybe 6 months. Everything that came in went out on that building or was saved for other things. Right now, the kids have $22,000 in a checking account. It's to go for repaving a parking lot. We're very lucky that it's a stone building, metal roof. Because the only things, the minor things were some pest work on the wooden, there's no wood. We had to replace decks, big deal. The insurance was canceled this year. A mile from a very high hazard zone, fire hazard zone. So the insurance on it is about $3,300 a year. Now, we could not get insurance on the upstairs apartment, had to go through the California Fire Plan. My thing about and I think this is geared toward the downtown, if I'm not mistaken.
It seems that way, but it actually is not.
You know, because basically in Aldeville, we've got wide streets, you've got shopping centers that were put in the, 50s maybe? Where Angels Main Street downtown is a historical place. I think we as a city have been negligent over the last 40 years. We've been talking about bypassing the downtown with the heavy trucks. Nothing that I know of is in the works right now. I don't know if, Caltrans is gonna redo the Highway 449, big deal. Janet and I talked about Murphy's. We want to be like Murphy's. Two things happened to Murphy's before it really started booming. The county put a weight limit on Murphy's Grade Road, which was most likely illegal because it had been built with state federal funding. And the Highway 4 was improved at the other end of town. About the same time, and probably before that, Gerber, Couts, and 2 other UOP graduates bought the Murphy's Hotel. They built on more rooms, that motel, and that was a big draw. Everything is in that closed little section downtown. The museum's right there. So of course people wanted to invest in it because you see people walking across the street, going here, there, everywhere. Of course Murphy's. And what did it? I think getting the heavy trucks out of downtown to allow people to walk around. Another thing is, where are you going to get the money to renovate these wooden buildings? Nobody's going to give you a commercial loan because the commercial loans are based on the ability of the building to generate the income. I don't care how much income you as a person have, they won't give you. Donnie and I found that out with ranches when I was in real estate. And I thought they were discriminating against me because I was a female. But our ag lender said, no, Nancy, a commercial loan that's based on what that ranch will bring you. So I would wish that you would rethink this and see what we can do to enhance downtown. Another thing is, let me tell you this. When I went to get a permit, put in either the heating or the cooling system, this is 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was asked by the city building inspector, is it handicap accessible? And I said, no, I've had a thing on it, and the doorways are 1/4 of an inch too high, and the parking lot is not
2% grade. Yeah.
well, I can't give it to you. I said, I guess you didn't give John Couts a building permit to put the roof on his building you just bought downtown. I got the building permit. Well, how many other people were told that? And you look at your downtown buildings, some of them have steps from the sidewalk this high. How are you going to get around that? How is a person going to get around that? But I think the main thing is you cannot get a loan to get these buildings rehabbed. These frame buildings is where the most problem is, right? It's not the stone and brick buildings.
You're talking about downtown.
It's the frame buildings.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other public comment, please?
Yes. Gotta go after Nancy. We do have a lot to do downtown, but part of the problem is some of the people hold back downtown because they don't want to move forward with that. We've dealt with some of those people downtown. The punishment thing, we don't want to punish or whatever, but we've got to do something to try to incentivize and get people at least looking at their buildings. We've had several that have sat vacant for several years. We've talked to the person and nothing happens with it. I understand there's a lot that does need to be done with the Nancy, but unfortunately some of those owners don't come up and look at their buildings and they're not getting them taken care of as it is. So it's just making a detriment further on those buildings. So I just think there's not been attention to it. So the waiver's been put in place so that they do try to do something. I'm sure if they came back to you and said, look, this is what's going on with my building. I can't do this and this because of the repairs, or I can't get the permits or whatever. That's why the waivers are in place to work with them. We've got to start somewhere with the road to get to some kind of ideas going on down there so we can have a building downtown. So the real estate offices, the diners, the stores, we stay there. So that's all.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Anybody online? Online. Yeah, one.
Julie, go ahead, Julie.
I think she's muted.
Julie, you're on mute. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, council. Julie Douglas, Practice Gypsy Company, downtown Angels Camp. Just want to come behind Jesse and reiterate what he has to say. I 100% agree with this ordinance. I know you've heard me come up there and speak several times about it. I want to mention something that is another example of why these buildings need to be filled. I know there's been chatter about various merchants putting open signs in their windows. And I know that that goes against our, I guess, ordinances for downtown. But
Uh-oh. We lost.
Is it us? It's us. It's Isabel's.
Isabel, can you hear me?
I can see Isabel here.
Um,
Can you unmute on your?
There it is.
There, Julie.
Julie. You can hear me, Isabel?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, one of the things that I've been, I think a lot of these businesses are putting these signs up, these light up open signs. Because I know I see there's several, because we're getting a lot of people coming in and they're telling us they can't even tell what businesses are open or active or empty. And I think it has to do with our windows. And I get a lot of people walking by. I have open signs, and my signs are in my window. I have a sign on my door. I have a sign on my planter. And people are like, I can't tell if you're open or closed. And I think it's because the windows on a lot of our buildings, or maybe because the buildings across the street are super tall and too light for using our windows. I don't know, but it's a common thing. And it really kind of, it's bad when visitors, customers, whatever, can't even tell who's open and who's closed. Even those of us that are down there working hard and we're open, they can't even tell that we're open. Because it's hard to tell when you look inside. And I'm sensitive about it. I went outside my building with sunglasses and looked in, and it looks like I'm completely dark. I take off my sunglasses. It still looks like I'm dark from the outside looking in. So I think, these empty buildings, people that are closed, it's so much confusion for visitors downtown. They can't really tell what's going on. So I really think, I don't have topic with signage and all that, but I really think, one more reason to get this ordinance going, because then we don't have to worry about empty buildings that have been lost in all the empty buildings. I mean, you guys talked last meeting about how much square footage of vacancy was downtown. That is a lot of square footage. So I'm just here to say one more time, I'm really in favor for this ordinance, and I hope, I hope it passes. We need all the help we can get down there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Any other online comments? Okay. I have one question. And probably this, I guess, would be for Amy. On page 2 of your staff report, you say, a building that is not maintained as defined in the Angels Camp Code and begins to deteriorate could be subject to a penalty fee. This requirement already exists in the city and would not be changed by this proposed amendment.
That is correct.
I'm unfamiliar with that current mandate or
It's a public nuisance if you have a building that is deteriorating. So it goes to code enforcement. That's been around since we adopted section 116, 117, 118, 119, when we, October 21, I think is when we did all those updates.
Okay, so that's a code enforcement currently.
Yes.
And that is what type of fee, what type of penalty does that establish?
There's a citation fee, and it has to do with the number of times you get cited. So it starts out, I don't have my citation pad here, but it's like you start out at 100, 250, 500 kind of thing.
Okay, and is that health and safety driven? Is that
Yes.
is it
California Health and Safety?
It is, so if something's gonna cause a potential health or safety risk. Okay.
Yes.
Currently, that's what we've had, and we really, how many of those have we dealt with? How many penalties, how many infractions, how many of those cases do we have in the last, say, I mean,
Well, again,
5 or 10 years?
remember, we are a complaint.
Right, I know, so that's kind of what I'm looking at this, is what have we had? What have we not enforced? What have we, why are we reinventing the wheel on some things? And why are we not just using what we already have in place?
Because this revised code, after going through the city or the city attorney's office, no longer talks about penalties as much as it emphasizes putting forth a plan. So
I just feel,
Yeah.
for all intents and purposes, and I feel strongly on this, we already have everything in place that we need, we're just not using it. Strategic plan implementation, A1 on your staff report, talks about the appearance and deterioration and reduction in property values. We already have something in place for that, it's our code compliance, we're not using it efficiently. A3, conservation of open space, public health, risk of fire, which is very real, vacant buildings, unsafe building hazards. We already have something in place for that. It is fire, it is police, and it is code compliance. Downtown needs investment, revitalization, and rehabilitation. We need to capitalize on economic development and strategic plan. We need to do this. I believe that we need to do this. I am passionately embracing each one of you that wants an economic development plan. It should not be punitive. We should align with people. Putting another ordinance when we have things in place, it's just is kind of a muddying of the waters for me. I've talked to, and I'm not kidding, I'm not inflating numbers. In the last, how long have we been, this has been on the first reading in public, probably 2 months?
Couple months.
I've talked to no less than 40 or 50 people. And some of the comments that have come back to me have really hit home. They are property owners, they are business owners. They are saying that this is not necessary, that a government grab on on property rights, on land use rights is just not the direction that we want to go. We ourselves have properties that we are still waiting to do something with. We're waiting to plan the plan for Napa and the plan for city council. We are in violation of this potential plan already, and we know that, but we're guilty, but we know that it takes a minute. It takes a while. So I understand that we want to get everybody's plan. I know we want to motivate people. I know that those that we're not going to be able to motivate because they're not interested in buying, selling. This plan, the only way to be compliant with this plan as it's written is by very mundane efforts of just putting a sign in the door that says for sale, for lease, call this number. It's not a fit for me. I think we need to up our planning. I think our our code compliance department. I think our code compliance department is, like I said, not utilized, but we've adapted or added another day for our current code compliance officer. So we have 2 days. Not real sure what that accomplished us, but it didn't get any of this. And it could be utilized. It could be updated. Maybe we make him full-time. I'm up for that, but not to be punitive with a new ordinance that is not necessary. It's just not necessary. We can try to align with property owners. We need to get them to try to communicate with us, but not in a punitive way. So that's how I feel about this one. And I will let somebody else talk. So
part of me agrees with you, the other part doesn't. You know, I think we have individual rights and we have the rights of everyone else who's downtown and all the citizens in the city. And if we truly are complaint driven, if we don't do something else, what we're asking folks to do is enter into an agreement with us, work with us. You know, it's not punitive if I had a vacant building and Amy came knocking on my door and said, hey, you know, what's your intent? You know, I think it's important for us to engage people, and we're not engaging them now. We're only engaging them when something happens. And Amy, help me understand, if those buildings were identified as historic buildings, and I would imagine most of them would meet that criterion, put on the register, what regulations kind of go by the wayside? What building codes and, you know, or is there funding available for them to remodel or to do?
So basically, you could qualify for the state historical building code if you put your building on a register, which is what we would do as part of this outreach, would be trying to work with the people to tell them what they could do with their property. Part of this is establishing relationships, to be honest with you. It's going through the process of entering into an agreement. We know who the contact is. We have contacted them. We've had an exchange. We can tell them about the State Historical Building Code, the Mills Act, which we will be pursuing shortly, that could give them some incentives, property tax breaks for rehabbing their building. It's not always rehab, though. What's important is that we have a contact with the property owner so that when we have people walk through our door and say, hey, I'm looking for a space that we can quickly get a hold of somebody, and we have been keeping in touch with them. We know what their goals are for their property, and we can put a fit together when somebody walks through the door and says, hey, I want to do this. And we know that this property wants to do something very similar. We can then put them together. It's getting them to think about what they want to do with their property as opposed to ignoring it and it will go away, I guess. The punitive part of this has been removed. There isn't a punitive part of this anymore. It's all about having the plan in place and working with somebody.
Well, look what the Colas have done and what Greta has done to that end of town. You know, they took old buildings and renovated them. And, you know, I think there's an expectation that, you know, if I own something, I guess I have the right to let it fall to the ground. But how am I protecting my investment? And maybe that's not an issue for folks. But regardless of that, I think we owe it to the rest of those folks who have businesses there to support and engage those folks that have vacant buildings. And help us understand how we can help them. And if it's not punitive, then there should not be a fear that we're invading somebody's private rights. Because all we're asking them to do is engage in conversation.
I agree with you. I want to stand behind our downtown and other businesses that are working so hard downtown. And I just feel like this is a community-driven relationship building. Yes, it's, you know, we are saying you're going to be penalized, but there's so many ways to get out of that. Like, there's so many ways to do that. And if you don't want to own your building anymore, then don't own your building anymore. If you don't want to rent it, don't own it. I mean, it's just, it's a crazy maker, but we've heard from so many downtown businesses who aren't here tonight over and over and over. And they're saying the same thing. So I'm standing behind our business community.
And I agree, Jen, that, you know, that Napa building is an eyesore. But, you know, again, I think it goes back to communication. You know, how many people know that we purchased the Napa building? And the hoops that you have to jump through and the test that you're going to have to do before you can demolish that building.
So just real quick, because I in some ways, we're all saying the same thing differently.
Right.
I agree with the community. I agree with the business development. I agree with the downtown. I just don't think that a new vacancy ordinance is necessary. I think that to establish relationships would, and should be a phone call or a knock on the door. It doesn't need to be a grab. And I'm calling that punitive, if the word shouldn't be used punitive. It's not punitive because there's no fine, but it's punitive if you're trying to get a potential $450 registration fee out of them to force them to communicate with you. I don't like that. I don't like mandating that guy who owns that property has to come talk to me, and if he doesn't, he's gonna get $450. I'm gonna get $450 out of him. To me, that's too government. If he doesn't want to talk to me, I want to figure out why he doesn't want to talk to me. Why doesn't he want to communicate with the city? We already have all these things in place. And aligning with the businesses and finding out what their business plan is and finding out what they need and finding out how we can align with them, that is all amazingly wonderful. And I think we have the capacity to do that. I don't think that we need to force that with a new ordinance. It's just creepy to me.
So that's what I align with the need and the want and the desire. I just don't think this is it.
So I think that these are two completely different things that you're talking about. I do,
Mhm.
and so that's why, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Alvin.
Right, it is about.
Isabel?
Yeah, I guess in a sense, I agree with what everyone is saying. However, I also feel that a lot of those people who have, made an effort to make their buildings nicer, I mean, Mike, you used the example of Gretel, that didn't go without any struggles. I know she had some issues, getting through with our building inspector, and I think there was a door handle issue. So I think historically it's been pretty well known, or at least it's been brought to my attention, that it's actually easier to do building and improvements and things of that sort in the county versus the city. And I sort of see this as just one more hiccup of us not, I think, as Jen is saying, there are other ways that we could be going about this. I just think, I understand the need for it, but I feel like if there's somebody that, you know, they're not doing something to improve their building right now, is this really gonna make them do something? So those are my thoughts on the ordinance.
Alvin, you're up.
I got lots. Let's start here again. So I think the hotel downtown is a major thing that we need to really look into, and I think there's some code compliance thing. I think if we could capture that audience downtown and have them eat, stay, drink, and play right in that area would be absolutely huge. I agree with Nancy that the 49 bypass is a must at some point. We can do all sorts of events then without Caltrans getting in the way. We can open and close that thing as much as we want. So there's some stuff there, and even on downtown, what do I want to say? I think we need to do this. The business community is asking for it. The planning commission is okay with it. I think not doing this is holding back downtown a little bit. It's not just maintenance. It's contacts. It's getting to know people. It's finding out what they want to do with their businesses. We have to start somewhere. And just like, what was the AI thing called earlier tonight? I can't remember the beginning of it. But the AI thing said food, clothing, and I think shopping or beautician was, you know, the top 3 things. Well, maybe we can put those some downtown after we make some contacts. This is just a contact list. I would actually go as far as say we need a $400 fee, but we're not doing that right now. There's no punitive damages to it. All you gotta do is come up with a plan.
You know, and if I may, Jen, I really would like, if this ordinance passes, I would like a monthly report of contacts. And I'd like to know, and this council would like to know, what are the roadblocks? Is our city throwing up roadblocks so that people can't be as productive, or they've been burned out because they've been told no? To address, Isabel, your concerns, because, you know, it's one thing, you know, and we all kind of hear the same thing, and, you know, we understand why there's regulations, but, you know, our job should be to knock down those roadblocks and not put them up. So if this ordinance passes and the council agrees, I'd like to kind of a monthly update about, you know, the contacts made, what are some of the key issues that you're finding, what are the roadblocks, and what we do. This is the first I heard tonight about, you know, we don't allow lit signs to say open and closed, and
Neon.
Neon.
There's been a whole ordinance.
yeah.
So, well, and that's,
In the historic.
well, yeah, in the historic, so.
The hotel has them all.
And I'm all, and ordinances can change. This can change down the road. You can devolve it or evolve it, whichever way we want to go. This is at least a starting point. And, you know, Isabel just said, and Jen, so my only thing is, you know, it was said that, you know, what are your other ways to move this forward? And let's add on to it, because I would love nothing more to have than a thriving business downtown. So, but this is an opportunity that's being put forward to us now. I don't have anything else at the moment, so let's go.
Just in response to Mike, yes, we have an old code that does not allow neon. The planning commission is working on a new ordinance to allow neon to a certain extent because of things like open signs. So anybody out there in the world who thinks that we're prohibiting neon open signs, that is not correct. The planning commission has not recommended that. That is not what they are proposing in their ordinance as of now. And you will be seeing that ordinance, within the next month or so.
Thank you.
Okay. Then on that note. And I was gonna finish off, that I will make a motion to.
So I just have
Go ahead,
one more
what do you
quick
got?
question.
Go.
How are we affording the staffing for this? Because it could be a lot of administrative work, and we have a limited staff and only 2 days a week with our current code compliance. So
Well, code compliance would not be initiating an administrative, this administrative piece. The code compliance is there if there's a true health and safety issue. And it was direction by council to go after the most egregious health and safety. So that is what they've been doing for the 2 days a week. So it's a matter of, staff working to figure out what the next steps are in terms of identifying how, what properties we're talking about, and then working on an outreach effort with them. A lot of this is gonna be education. And again, if you kind of like put it in the realm of how we come with code compliance, 85% are gonna immediately respond. No problem at all. It's gonna be that, that little percentage that are gonna be really difficult to try to track down. So we'll work with our local, real estate partners, recorder's office, whatever we can do to try to get a hold of them, to try to identify, how we can kind of get in contact and engage with them. Ultimately, the idea would be we take that information and we would actually build GIS layers, which then we can utilize, for planning efforts in terms of suiting potential businesses that are looking for particular, areas, which right now Amy does on a case-by-case basis, but we don't have a full-fledged database in order, to do that. So some of this will be working on that. So
where's
long
it coming
story
out of
short,
budget, I guess?
It's going to be coming out of the general fund. And the idea is if we can get these businesses in, then your sales tax revenue, your base, all of that is going to increase. So there is an investment to it on the front end, just like there is with any program that the city's, going to entertain. Just like with code compliance, we have to invest money in order to get some of those things cleaned up. However, those also drastically improved those particular properties and the properties around them because that blight went away as those got dealt with. So you see a benefit. You'll see a benefit in the short and the long run, but mainly in the long run in terms of larger tax base, whether that's sales tax or property tax.
On the report that you asked about, I would suggest maybe even quarterly, just because I don't know how much staff time that takes every month. So I think quarterly would be better.
That'd be fine.
Okay. Any final comments from anybody?
My other comment is if we could involve ACPA with that too, so then they know what businesses are maybe wanting to be like that too.
We do. Yeah, I've included ACPA in all of my, correspondence of the things that we're working on.
Okay, should I be looking for a motion? Somebody on resolution 2387?
I will make a motion to adopt the ordinance as is.
With
that one little correction.
with the caveat of quarterly
Quarterly
reports.
reports, yeah, we will throw quarterly
And
reports.
your fire marshal.
No, that was already done.
No, it was not.
No, it's
Oh, I
gotta
thought
be
it
an
was.
ordinance.
Oh.
We would.
And the fire marshal.
Okay.
The fire marshal, every 6
And we'll wait for the full meeting.
And fire marshal. 6
And
months.
we,
And wait.
And wait before we do.
With that,
Do I need to repeat?
No, I
You
got it.
got it all. Okay.
I second it. I second that motion.
all in favor? No, you said.
Shemente, Brownell,
Aye.
Sharado,
Aye.
Herndon,
Nay.
Moncada.
Nay. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 8, our administration report.
No, we have the H.
H,
Oh, my bad.
water smart.
I skipped over. H, Water Smart. Discussion and direction on Water Smart application and approve resolution 2387, approving application and designating the city administrator to execute all necessary documents for the grant. Rebecca.
So, basically, I keep, watching for grant opportunities to pay for our AMR project. So the AMR project, which is an automated meter reading project, right now we have, manual read meters, is part of our master plan. It was in our rate study. It's on our CIP project list. But the funding to pay for it is at this point all rate, rate revenue. And so we're always looking for alternatives to using rate revenue so that we can keep that rate revenue for other projects that are within our CIP. So this Water Smart Small Scale Water Efficiency Project program just came out, and it's for small agencies, non-urban water agencies. The maximum award amount is 100,000, so it's a 50% match. So you submit a $200,000 project, and if it's awarded, you get 100,000, and we keep it. So we already have included an allotment, an outlay in our budget for CIP anyway. So we just get double the benefit of doing it this way. So it would be just basically working with our engineer to kind of carve out almost like a pilot program. We would pick a particular area and we would focus on that particular, area, route, whatever. And we would utilize the Water Smart Small Scale Water Efficiency Project program in order to fund half of a $200,000 project. So it's a way to basically double the fund for half the money.
And free up folks, free up labor. So are they gonna have to replace the meter or can they attach something to the meter? How does that work?
So, so what we've done is we had staff identify the type of meter and the type of device that would work with that particular meter. So we had demos done, and they've identified a manufacturer, and some of the meters, about 100 of them in the field, are already the make of the meter that we need, and then we would just have to attach the mechanism on top. But all the rest of the meters would have to be replaced. So out of the 2,000 meters that we have, 100 of them are already this kind. The other thing is, the direction for staff now, because we order meters to have on hand, because as we have to swap them out because they don't read anymore, was to stop buying manual read meters altogether and buy the compatible meters moving forward. So that effort's happening, but it's a matter of trying to kind of carve out some of these kind of tranches to get the construction, remove and replace of these meters done. And I guess leverage our rate revenue, but also try to get as much paid for by non-rate revenue as possible. So we have other grant applications out in the works, but you just don't know if you're going to get them or you're going to get part of them or whatever. So as we come across AMR meter replacement grants or grants that we could use that for, I'm trying to latch onto them and see if we can.
So the reality is, Rebecca, if we could change out 75% of the meters, then we change out 75% of the meters. And that saves time, and then as funding is available. So your recommendation is to support you seeking grant funding, and that grant funding then would then make the switch for X number of meters, whatever that.
However many we can do with 200,000, and then instead of us paying the whole 200,000, we have to come up with 100,000, and the grant pays for 100,000.
Oh, because it's matching grant,
50% match, yeah.
but it's part of our strategic plan that's in the budget.
It's part of our capital project, part of our master plan, and it's also part of our strategic plan.
And we have money in our enterprise funds.
So it's bringing next year's budget in line with this. It's the second portion.
Yeah, so we would apply for the grant and then we would do a budget modification based on the award of the grant. But it is, it's the US Department of Interior, so it's a federal grant. So they, federal has their own timeline. So we would amend the budget in line with grant award.
And what is the timeline for the grant?
It's a fiscal year 24, fiscal year 25 federal. And they have a rolling approval process.
So is that an internet based, or would they, guys, so it's all internet?
They
So
all
that's gonna
changed
help
to
with greenhouse
internet.
gas then. 'cause
Everything's
the- That's all.
The stars are aligning.
That's it.
What are our chances?
Pretty good. They look at disadvantaged communities, which we are, small jurisdictions, which we are. We already have it on our master plan. We already have it on our capital project. We already have proven match money, so I'd say pretty good.
That's pretty good. Okay. Questions? Public comment? Okay, looking for a motion, or if anyone doesn't have any final questions or comments.
I'll make the
Oh,
motion.
Isabel, I'm sorry, did you?
That was me.
No, that was Rose popped something up on you.
I was gonna say, I don't think we need a motion, right? It was just discussion and directions.
Resolution 2387.
Oh, okay.
So I would like to make a motion to adopt 2387, approving the application and designating you as the, do the grants. Okay?
Shemente,
Aye.
Braulio,
Yep.
Sharado. Aye. Hernan.
Aye.
Longcom.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, now moving to administration report, item 8.
Just kind of a couple highlights. We've been working on all of the holiday preparations, so making sure street cleaning was happening, installation of the highway decorations across the highway in coordination with Caltrans, and then obviously staff are gearing up for potential winter storms, which inevitably are gonna come. We just are not positive when. And then the local, shop local campaign Hop and Shop, tremendous success as it's been each time we've done a round. It sold out, the freebie sold out in 2 weeks from when we did it. And we've been actively encouraging more businesses to enroll in the program. So we currently have 35 businesses enrolled in accepting those projects within the city limits. And just a reminder, the data that we've gotten on the last 2 rounds that we've done, consumers spend 54% more than the cards.
Very cool.
Enough all to local businesses. And just a reminder, the last round, we contributed 31,000, which means people bought 31,000. So that's a total of $62,000. Community engagement. I had the privilege of being asked to be a speaker at Good Morning Calaveras and also the Angels Murphy's Rotary Club. Both had really good attendance, and it was an opportunity for me to discuss the various projects that the city is doing, including Utica Park. We're going to be undergoing a rate study and the Angels Creek Trail. And so all, very positive feedback. And then it was also an opportunity for me to urge those attendees, share the information. We put it on the website, we put it on social media, we put it in the post offices, we, put it on the bills, we put it press releases, and we still miss certain, sectors. So those are an opportunity for them to get that information and further share it with their friends and neighbors and family. Bad news, water treatment plant improvement project that the city has been working on for ever, 2019 maybe. We received news from the state water boards that funding has been withdrawn from their grant program, and so they cannot fund our project.
Which one was that?
That was the water treatment plant
backflush?
improvement project. So what happened is the governor's office actually had taken general fund money from the state and gave it to water boards, and then they used it as part of their grant program. And then the governor's office took back some of the general fund money in order to give to legislators for earmarking. So my recommendation is we go after earmark.
Right.
And so what I would be looking for, because that's all gonna start happening after the first of the year, is coordination with, at least one council member that we can start going after legislature, whether it's state or federal. At the end of the day, the project was pretty much ready to go. It was all approved by state water board. The only thing we're missing now is the funding. So we've already gone through the environmental, we've already gone through everything, so.
Senator Alvarez is here Tuesday.
Yeah, so I'm thinking
Go down to the Habitat office.
we go and have a little conversation.
How much was the project?
It had gone up to, what, 6 million?
Wow.
So that's one option is to go after, possible earmarks. Otherwise, looking at a different pathway for funding, because the backwash also aligns with drought program. So, we might be able to kind of break it up into different tranches. It just was a real shame. And we were not the only ones. The poor guy on the phone was having to call a lot of agencies to tell them that 200 million had just been taken out of their grant pot. So yes, so if anyone wants to go down next Tuesday to talk to legislator, I'm happy to go with whoever that is. And then you may have seen on the news, because I saw it on the news, there are slated to be some Rite Aid closures. And we were just informed that our Rite Aid is going bankrupt. So I have talked to Amy, our planner, and we're proactively identifying potential tenants that might be able to align should they vacate the building. They're going through the bankruptcy process right now. I don't know exactly what's gonna happen, and I don't know what the timing is, but.
And we are on the list to close?
They didn't notify who was going to close, but they did contact us to say they're going through bankruptcy right now.
So they're going through bankruptcy, but did it necessarily mean?
I saw the list that came out of who was closing, but we weren't on it. And then they had a secondary list, we weren't on it. And
so it doesn't necessarily mean they will,
Right.
but right now, any charges that we have, we're having to go through a claims process to get them paid. So like the water bill. And then tomorrow we are having the city employee appreciation breakfast. And so we're celebrating all the hard work that our dedicated staff have been doing throughout the year. I will be attending the Calaveras Visitors Bureau dinner tomorrow. And then I sent out, and you should have received it, our end of year city newsletter. And we've gotten really positive feedback on that version.
Could you publish that in the paper or do something with that? That was a wonderful letter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can put that out to our press release. And then we, Amy and I will be working on the Utica Park end of year newsletter that will be going out here shortly.
To everyone?
Those that sign up for it.
Those that sign up for it. I'm going to be
can
doing
we
one
do
in
something?
January that will actually go in the bill.
Thank you.
So that'll be January that'll go out with like the January 20th bill.
Printed.
Printed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like the first time we do the insert thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's all. And just, oh. What are we talking, are we talking about the are you gonna bring that up at the calendar?
The new civic plan?
No, the next meeting?
Oh,
I was gonna.
yeah.
Okay, just at the next, on the calendar, okay.
Yeah, we'll talk.
And if this happens to be our last meeting of the year, just wanted to thank council for, we've done a lot this year. And so thank you for all the support and dedication, and looking forward to 2024.
Okay, thank you. Item 9 is council report. I will start with, since the last council meeting, on November 11th, I attended the Calaveras County Cold Case fundraiser for the Sheriff's Department at Ironstone, which was a really amazing event, fundraiser. And we have quite the cold case department at the Sheriff's Department that's impressive. I met with Congressman McClintock's office on the 13th, the Habitat Mixer on the 14th, the Utica Park meeting on the 15th. I attended the DAC meeting on the 16th, LAFCO on the 20th. What we did, and Albert attended that with us at LAFCO.
So he's really retiring?
He is retiring,
Yeah.
and
I think
that's
John
my
is
trip
really,
where
it's like he's serious, I think. We
Yeah.
tied him to a chair and took pictures.
It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Just that it was that, and it was the discussion of the sphere of influence in the at the city, and some talk about the CalAFCO
Right,
takeaway, and that was
everyone
it.
went to, you guys all went to Calaveras.
Right, that was really all.
Anita Pack and you, and Anita's the chair. I don't, was it you?
For CalAFCO.
For Calaveras,
Yeah.
yeah.
She got
She got reappointed, so.
I was in the Aqua Parade. Actually, I was judging it for a minute, and then Aqua told me that they didn't need me to judge after all, and that was good because we ended up winning an award. So I didn't judge myself. And that leads us to here, and that's it for me. So Caroline.
I went to the Central Sierra Economic Development meeting on the 9th, and then the sense has been out for the 30-day public review. We talked also, we got an update on the Eastern Sierra Case through 16 planning grant, which is outstanding. They're working a lot with Columbia College on certain industries that we need in this area, and like how to get kids through. It's a great program. And then we got an update on the Community Economic Resilience Fund, SURF Regional Planning Grant as well. So I don't know when that meeting is happening. I'm not sure that's coming. That's all I have. I did not go to the museum either, and I can't.
Oh, man.
That was about it. Jen, you already hit on the LAFCO I filled in for. We did not have Utica at the end of the month, because they were doing the outages, but I can report on that a little bit, but all outages went okay, but and we'll get an update on this coming Tuesday is Utica.
Correct. I'm not gonna be at that, I'm out of town next week. So if you can do Utica on Tuesday, if you can attend.
This coming Tuesday.
The 12th.
And I will not be attending
5:30.
COG tomorrow, which is Shemek days.
Okay, and I think I'm going for Isabel.
Oh, are you?
Is that allowed?
2 alternates at the same meeting?
Yeah, I think so, right? Okay.
Because they have a funky.
We'll wing it.
Well, then I will forward both of you.
I have it from Erin. I'm on the list.
Okay.
Because I am an alternate on that one.
It was just like the update.
But I was supposed to be out of town.
Yeah, it's your call, girl. So,
Okay.
um,
Is that it? Oh, and the parade.
Yeah, I was in the parade, and it was a good time. It seemed to be very, very well attended. Yeah, it was awesome. It was good. So,
It was well attended.
It was.
Absolutely.
so good job to act on.
Very good. Mike.
Well, I attended the park meeting, had an opportunity to meet with Joel and Alvin regarding Utica. And tomorrow I get to go to COG. And I got a wonderful legal workshop. 3 hours. Yes, 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one of them. So.
An hour and a half.
Okay, and Isabel.
So since our last meeting, I attended the parade on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. I just want to commend the Business Association on a job well done. And I was excited to see it back on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. I know, at least in my memories, it's always been on that day. So it was nice to see it on that day. And I think it was really well attended. And yeah, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Calendar.
The only thing I'm gonna mention tonight is the December 19th meeting. There has been some discussion, so maybe, please, yes.
So there was discussion that possibly we don't have, we may not have a lot of items that would be necessary to have a second meeting this month. So we could potentially forego. No, Mike. And that would make our next council meeting, January 2nd.
But you've been on, but that's only one a month that you have.
I know, don't get used to this, let me tell you.
Wait till January.
So I don't know, once again, staff is confident that
Yeah, we
there's no
reviewed,
pressing.
we reviewed the items, all of them enrolled.
Amy's over there like
Yeah,
this.
I know, this is my Christmas gift. I did have a couple staff members say, oh my God, I was just.
So we would meet on the 2nd still though, right?
Correct.
That Monday's a holiday, I
Correct.
assume.
Correct,
Yeah.
January 2nd.
We've done that before with other holidays as well, so, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
darn.
everything we can roll over to January.
Unless something crazy happens and we can have a special meeting.
Yeah,
perhaps, but-
Let us all
Yep.
know.
So do we need a motion for that?
I think direction.
Direction? I think direction should be given to staff to see you next year, other than tomorrow morning at the.
Yes.
Correct.
Right here,
Tomorrow morning here.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yes.
Are you gonna join us now?
just for a short time, I go to the office.
There's plenty.
All right. Any other calendar items?
It's cake.
Any other calendar items, Rose, other than we
Nope,
talked
that's
about Utica and
It's late, let's go home.
and future agenda items, number 11?
Future agenda items will be, the appointments for, the meetings.
Right.
So we'll have to address that.
And then Rebecca, can we get an update on the capital improvement projects? I read the list in the binder and just what we're doing with that. And also, is it possible for Michelle and staff to kind of just give us some kind of budget assumptions? I know there are fixed costs, what are we projecting for property tax and TOT and just kind of give us a feel
So,
Uh,
for where the budget's gonna go?
yeah, so we're planning on doing mid-year, and so mid-year would happen after we close December, and so that should
It's like first
be
intro?
like second meeting in January is I think what we could shoot for, worst case scenario, if there was some weird stuff going on financially, would be first meeting in February. And then are you just talking about like projecting forward, or are you
Yeah,
talking
no,
about?
just projecting
Yeah.
forward. I mean, so if council wanted to see additional staff, I mean, I was so impressed after that rainstorm and the yucky leaves. And, it was impressive to see staff get out there and clean that up or if, we just talked about hanging banners. I mean, what if staff wanted to see something not staff, if council wanted to see something built in and whether or not it was possible?
Yep.
As opposed to the tail end of it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I would look for that, like I said, either the second meeting in January or the first meeting in February.
Hey, Rosa, I agree with Bible, that's really
I
nice.
didn't do that. Thank God for that.
That's good. That's very nice.
She's working on.
I
think I'm getting you. Yeah.
I mean, it was short time.
I know.
Right over the top of it.
I'm gonna adjourn the second.
I'm ready for an adjournment.
So moved.
A motion, we have a second.
Shamante. Carmen.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good night.